این آخرین نبرده ده پهلوی برمیگرده این آخرین نبرده 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 پهلوی برمیگرده.
Good morning, everybody. I hope you're having a good Monday. We got a lot to talk about today, as usual. Good morning, Kirby. I gotta adjust my glasses here. I swear to God, my vision's going like crazy. Oh, that's not the right screen to adjust. 1 second here. I just need to increase the size of chat here so that I can read the things that you guys are typing. Maytag, good morning. Aaron, good morning. Ronrico, Dr. Fish, P.S. Bailey. Good morning to all you guys today. Thank you for showing up. Lowe's 9492 says Jesse James from Invest Answers says 300 Tesla shares by 2030, 2032 will be worth. Yeah, he's got some pretty high estimates. I don't know if it's exactly that, but the way exponential numbers work, man, maybe add a year to it. Let's see. Let's get after it. I agree. Let's do that. Hey, good morning, Angel. So this week is going to be busy. Not for economic data today. Today is actually super quiet. We did get Jerome Powell talking, and we should probably listen to what he had to say in regard to lawsuits and the Fed not being independent and hating Donald Trump. So we'll make sure to cover that. But again, no economic data today. Tomorrow is going to be a big day. Lots of inflation data, ADP employment data. It's just going to be a big one. The whole rest of the week is going to be pretty busy. CNN Fear and Greed Index is in a nice neutral area for stocks. We like to see that. That makes us happy. From the crypto side, we're literally barely out of fear. That's also beautiful to see. And let's just hop back over here. So again, we had the Trump Powell comments. We'll go over those. Kevin Hassett just talked on CNBC, so we're probably going to listen to his response in regard to that. So we'll pull that up in a second here. Probably listen to Jerome Powell first and then go to that. Again, CPI, core CPI, and inflation flip narrative. I think that's going to be a big thing this week. Supreme Court tariffs ruling could happen on the 14th, but I have no idea if that's actually true. The 15th is, or at least whether or not it will. They've got different windows where they release basically what their decisions were on different things, and the 14th is the next window. PPI data on that time too, and then again we got the Clarity Act that we're supposed to hear about a vote this week. I think that's going to get people really excited. Probably about things like BMNR. I want to show you that chart real quickly, and Ethereum as a whole. So just at a quick glance, again, I haven't done anything with this chart in ages, but we are at a falling tightening wedge, and it does look like it's getting ready to break out. So if there's a time for Ethereum and Bitcoin and all these things to start moving, I think it's coming soon. And I think things like the Bitcoin gold ratio are good reflections of why that's true. We'll look at that stuff in a little bit too. But I think getting the Senate Clarity Act passed is going to be a really good positive for Bitcoin and also for shitcoins across the board, including Ethereum, which if it does replace the financial system, not store of value system, but the financial system, then Tom Lee could be really right. And that could be one of the best trades that you have. All right, real quick, before we do that, I do want to, let's do this. We'll go back. Actually, we'll jump down here. I think I got the comment from Jerome Powell in here somewhere. Let me see if it's in here. It might be under a different category. Probably is. Looks like it is. Let's jump over. We'll listen to Jerome Powell and what he had to say last night, and then we'll jump over. And let me see here. Trump. Powell. A bunch of other stuff. There we go. So let's listen to Jerome Powell first and what he was talking about last night. Obviously not super happy. And then we'll listen to Kevin Hassett's response, which I think is a good one. Robotaxis, great question. Real quickly, Galaxy says, how many robotaxis do you think Tesla will have by end of year 2026? I don't care. I think that it's very high likelihood that they're across every major city in America, and they're probably starting to look to span out to some of the smaller ones. and that's all I care about. There's so many different catalysts. I've got a thing to talk about in a little bit with that. Let's listen to Jerome. Looks a little sleepy here, but let's listen to him.
Good evening. On Friday, the Department of Justice served the Federal Reserve with grand jury subpoenas, threatening a criminal indictment related to my testimony before the Senate Banking Committee last June.
Seems very excited about that.
That testimony concerned, in part, a multi-year project to renovate historic Federal Reserve office buildings. I have deep respect for the rule of law and for accountability in
We should talk about Michael Howell. Remind me later.
our democracy. No one, certainly not the chair of the Federal Reserve, is above the law. But this unprecedented action should be seen in the broader context of the administration's threats and ongoing pressure. This new threat is not about my testimony last June or about the renovation of the Federal Reserve buildings. It is not about Congress's oversight role. The Fed, through testimony and other public disclosures, made every effort to keep Congress informed about the renovation project. Those are pretexts.
I do think this is mostly noise, but let's listen it out.
The threat of criminal charges is a consequence of the Federal Reserve setting interest rates based on our best assessment of what will serve the public, rather than following the preferences of the president. This is about whether the Fed will be able to continue to set interest rates based on evidence and economic conditions, or whether instead monetary policy will be directed by political pressure or intimidation. I have served at the Federal Reserve under 4 administrations, Republicans and Democrats alike. In every case, I have carried out my duties without political fear or favor, focused solely on our mandate of price stability and maximum employment.
And I happen to be extra bullish about the economy when liberals are running it, and then super bearish when they are not.
Public service sometimes requires standing firm in the face of threats.
Oh, guys, he's a public servant. Public servant. That's why we're building $1 billion Fed building for the gods to reign.
I will continue to do the job the Senate confirmed me to
Over.
do, with integrity and a commitment to serving the American people. Thank you.
Yes, I actually, will I be holding my Tesla shares long term? Man, I want to add to them. I'm just really bullish. My portfolio is broken down the way that it is because of the fact that I am just so bullish on what's happening right now in the world. That's why I've got an outsized allocation to ARKG and Cypher and Iron. Cypher and Iron, because just spinning up energy is going to be so difficult. In phase, again, I think the energy play is a really good one. I'm going to show you a chart that shows that energy ETFs are at rock bottom prices, which is why I've started to delve into energy. And again, so like this little bit of AI, energy, Bitcoin. It's kind of a weird combination now with these different miners. And then in phase for solar energy, and you think that housing is going to rebound. Again, $200 billion in bonds, mortgage bond buybacks that we're looking to do to help prop up that market and lower interest rates on housing. Today, not so great on the 10-year. It's up 0.82% because of Powell's comments. So it's just kind of funny that he's a public servant who's non-biased, who's trying to keep the Fed independent, and yet the tone that he's using, trying to insinuate that we're going to turn into a banana republic, is driving up bond yields, which is the exact opposite of his mandate and objective of what he's trying to accomplish right now, which is kind of funny. If anything, we're trying to loosen, and his comments are tightening, at least based upon what the 10-year is doing today. I don't think that's going to last long, but that is up. And so TLT is not doing really great. Ass and titties, or otherwise known as Strive, ASST, because it was asset entities, and it was just too easy to play off of that. I could see that doing really good here soon too. We also got, I think Bitcoin treasuries are going to have a bounce back, and Mike Alfred's been talking about how this one's probably a better opportunity than MicroStrategy. I do agree with that, even though MicroStrategy is the behemoth and the beast. Strive is a lot smaller, and so if these Bitcoin treasuries and Bitcoin start to get a bid, which I think they're in the process of doing, then it's just going to go up because it's a larger multiplier. And again, I could see that happening. Let me go back here. Well, again, I'll just go through the rest of the list. Another Bitcoin treasury, MetaPlanet sitting underneath of it. Zeta, I like Zeta because of the advertising, AI narrative behind it. I probably will talk about that one more today too, especially if you guys are interested. And then CleanSpark, again, is kind of hopefully they're catching up to Iron or Cypher and getting some contracts and doing what they need to do in order to be able to delve into AI. Previously, they had said they were not going to before they realized that they absolutely had to. FSLR, again, I've just slowly been adding that. That's First Solar. I think These guys build their own solar panels, and they're actually more cost prohibitive or less costly than their Chinese competitors because of all the tariffs that are in place right now. And I think that solar is actually going to get a big boost. It seems like Elon Musk is leaning that way too, from latest interviews and then from some news that we'll look at today. ONDS, this is just a drone AI play. Not sure if I'm 100% sold on it. Kraken is another one of those from the technology side. I really like Kraken because they have contracts that with Anduril and are helping out in that space. And I think defense is going to be really good. I got a little bit of cash, SMCI, TSWCF actually got good news. It looks like they're going to be on the London Stock Exchange. That would be sweet to see for them. And there's probably some others in here too that just barely register. Visser and Chamath both have said copper will do well because of build out. I think a few of them will. Silver has obviously done well. It's up 400% and from where it was in the lows of 2022. Some of these base metal costs, I don't think people realize it. Let me jump actually. That's a really good segue. Let me just talk about this real quick before we jump over into other stuff and get to Hassett's response to Jerome Powell. But silver's went up a lot. And this actually could stay up here. It looks crazy, right? Like you see this kind of increase right here, almost 100% in a very short period of time. But 376 since over here in August of 2022. This would make you worried that like computer components or a Tesla or all these things could cost a lot more, but they make up such a small amount of the production. Silver is actually a buy. There are no standalone silver mines. It's just not worth enough to do that. Maybe soon there will be, but silver is just a byproduct of a lot of other mining that happens. And mining is increasing. I think copper demand is going up. I mean, these things have kind of already happened, right? We were seeing copper, platinum. Everybody's bid up the metals, at least the precious metals. And so we've seen gold go really high, but these things have really, I think, coming to running their course, and we'll be looking at some posts on that too, where people, again, this is a rising wedge. It's not a good look. This rising wedge goes back to October over here, 2025. And again, you've got some bearish divergence here in the RSI that also starts really in October as well. Now, could it go higher? It could totally go higher. You just have to remember that once you're above like 30 trillion, you're pretty expensive. And if this does go higher, though, I think it is a direct reflection of failing economics in places like China. We're seeing it from other countries too. And my friend from Santiago Capital, who did the dollar milkshake theory, if you guys have ever heard of that, he was talking about how we could see some of this go even higher, but it's because there's such shitty countries out there that are so much worse off than the United States. And I think that's very true. I think that gold being bid up, if you think that's because America's doing bad, I think you're really off base. If you think it's because like Russia and China are doing really bad and Indians for some reason just love gold, they'd eat it if they could, then again, it's just so much harder to push up a $32 trillion market cap. It's just so much harder. And then there's people talking about it going to 7,000. That is an insane number. A 75% increase is a really crazy number. Being over 50 trillion. Just think about this, guys. Think about if we did get to 50 trillion on this and Bitcoin, there's no way Bitcoin keeps falling to like, it's like 1.8 trillion now. If gold is getting to 50 trillion, man, it's so easy for that to wash into Bitcoin at some point. And it looks like we're near that point right now. And then just flow all over the place into Bitcoin and crypto. I think that's what we're looking at. I think this year is going to be good. We're going to talk about reasons why. And if it's a good year where we see growth, where we see that extra 500 billion in defense spending starting to kick off, where we see that extra 200 billion in mortgage bond buybacks, whether we see the 10% cap on credit cards or the big guys can't buy real estate anymore. There are so many things that are being done to help prop up the lower end of the spectrum. Don't forget about the checks that we're going to print out to them too for tariff relief. And I do agree with Geiger Capital that if the longer it takes for this Supreme Court ruling decision, the less impactful it's going to be, because we're just not going to do, we're more likely to keep them. We're more likely to keep them or maybe deny it but not roll back tariffs. It's just not a negative thing. I did want to point out Bitcoin to gold ratio here. I do think if you look over here, you can see strong resistance, a brief breakout, but then again, it just couldn't hold it as support. And then over here, you can see where we kind of ground into a support and then rejected into resistance. Over here, we actually find support for the first time. And then over here, again, there's a couple of different trend lines here. But you could see how we could see that this was breaking down and that it was getting worse. But now I'd say it's garnering support. And again, just the size of the market caps, when you have a $32 trillion market cap versus a 1.8 with Bitcoin, it's just so easy for that to flow in. Over 10,000 Bitcoin, 13,627 Bitcoin were purchased, is what Danny's saying. Do we know what that looked like as far as the breakdown? What were they using for capital raise? Was it printing a bunch of stock, or was it the preferreds? But yeah, so I think this is going to act as a strong area of support. I think you're going to see that happening really quickly. And but I do think, again, if these things can go up and establish a stronger base, but here's the thing. You can't expect gold to go up 70% and Bitcoin not to do just an insane number higher than that. I mean, Bitcoin's going up 200% if you think, or 300% if you think that gold is going up another 75, just because it's so much larger of a vessel. And what I want to point out, and I'm going to talk to some of this in a little bit too, is just what happens if people talk about money market accounts where there's, $7 trillion sitting in there, and that's like an exciting number. But really, these things are nothing compared to gold sitting at 32 trillion, whatever it's at right now. And so what would happen if people start to pull out of their money markets because they could see rates coming down in the future and the economy doing well? And then at the same time, gold and silver start to fall off because they went parabolic. They are in a parabola right now. It just is what it is. Anyway, we'll get back to that, but let's listen to Scott Hassett rebuttal against what the concerns that people have from Jerome Powell. Let's just listen here. And I think he takes a pretty good middle of the road, like, get things to smooth over a little bit approach. Here we go. Oh, I better unmute it.
Get the most in-depth and the earliest stocks in the market.
You're one of the two Kevins now, Kevin Hassett.
I don't know.
There's plenty of Kevin. We want to talk about the employment report, all kinds of stuff, but it was preempted, I think, our discussion by, as you can imagine, some of the developments that happened yesterday. Right. Kevin, do you have any, what do you know exactly about the testimony that Jay Powell reportedly gave that would be considered perjury or perjurious in terms of that building?
Like I've not been involved in conversations with the Justice Department about that. I've not talked to the Justice Department ahead of them contacting Jay, and so I don't really have anything to add other than I respect the independence of the Fed and the independence of the Justice Department, and we'll see how it goes.
Well, that's what, obviously, there's the way that things look, Kevin, and you can't, obviously I can't, definitively say that this threatens the independence of the Fed, but in terms of optics, and what Jay Powell said, I'll hang it on what the chairman said. He said this was nothing more than a pretext to force him or put pressure on him to do the president's bidding on lowering rates.
Well, in the fullness of time, we'll find out whether it looks like a pretext. But right now, we've got a building that's got like dramatic cost overruns, and plans for the buildings that look inconsistent with the testimony. But I'm not a Justice Department person. I hope everything turns out okay for Jeff.
Some of the prospective candidates to replace Chair Powell have been outspoken about problems within the Federal Reserve. Now, there are some people that say, look, they should should have probably raised rates more quickly and taken away some of the
dollar
punch
breakdown
bowl
was with that Maytag?
to keep inflation under control. But others say since then.
I don't know what the share count, what that is, but do you know what the dollars are? Like as far as how much was of each, like total percentage of share common stock issued versus preferred?
And you would argue, I think, Kevin, that the economy is in good shape from a lot of different viewpoints. I don't know whether the Fed gets any credit, but at worst,
really
at least, they didn't stop some of these positive things from happening. Are there deep-seated problems at the Fed, in your view, institutionally?
I think that what I'd like to see at the Fed, regardless of who's Fed chair, is just a little bit more introspection. That we let inflation get out of control. It'd be nice to know how that happened, and nice to know that we have a plan to make sure it doesn't happen again. And that kind of stuff, I think, would be great for the world economy. But the bottom line is that the economy is booming right now because of Trump's policies, not because of the Fed. The Fed has amongst the highest.
I agree. I think we need to revert back to the Treasury has all the power right now. The Fed is going to go in the direction that we need them to. This is a whole bunch of fucking noise, and Trump's policies are going to kick in really strong in 2026, especially I think in this first quarter.
Interest rates on Earth right now.
This quarter, as far as like impactful, and then by Q2 of really starting to see strong data. We're already starting to see strong data. When you think about some of the data that we saw, I would argue that it was really beautiful in regard to just GDP related data. Jobs is a little bit weaker. We'll talk about some of that, though. I think some of that is a misperception, too, seasonal.
And President Trump is frustrated with that, but I don't think that has anything to do with what was going on this weekend.
Really? They have been cutting, obviously. They're what we've had, they are in an easing mode at this point. I thought that might have satisfied the president since he's not going to be there that much longer.
But just think about this, guys. So in July is when these charges were brought. This is a July thing. Did people forget that? It's fucking January. I get it was a half a year. But that's when this stuff happened. This isn't new from Trump. This is just Jerome Powell responding to the things that have happened since then. This is Powell bringing this up. It's not Trump bringing it up.
I know Representative Luna did forward some of the, I guess, the information she had about the perjurious claim to the Justice Department, and it came from that. But the president, I guess we take it. Do you take him on face value? He had nothing to do with putting pressure on the Justice Department to pursue this?
I think the president has been very vocal about what he thinks about interest rates. I don't think that there's any mystery about that. That he's frustrated that there were big cuts right before the election. He's frustrated that when he came in 2017 that there were big hikes before he's inaugurated. And so he has lots of frustration with what he views as the partisanship of the Fed. But this right here is a legal matter. And again, I've not been briefed on what the Justice Department is thinking. And I expect the president has not as well.
Kevin, what do you think just about the perception around the rule of law? And the conversation we were having at the table earlier is just that there are lots of Americans who look at these kinds of things, this instance in particular, but you can go back and look at what happened to some of the law firms and some of the media companies and others that were specifically publicly targeted by the president in the context of saying these are our enemies, these are folks that we don't like, and then efforts to prosecute them. And whether that undermines the rule of law, it undermines the legitimacy
Here's the thing.
that Americans feel.
He's such a dipshit. Here's the thing. It's going through the legal system. And so whatever ends up happening with that, it's whether good or bad, it will play out in the courts. And if anything, most of the courts lean more left, except for the Supreme Court. But it's all going to play out. It doesn't really fucking matter. Most of this is noise. We'll get off this subject pretty quick, I think.
About the law.
There sure is a possibility of that. I think we can all remember that it was 80-something times that, each one really, I think, ill-advisedly, where President Trump was indicted. But the bottom line is that we have law enforcement officials whose job it is to make sure that things are okay, that we don't have fraud like we see in Minnesota. And so
that's something I want to talk about. The fact that we're going national with that is awesome. And we're going to start in Minnesota and use that as a template.
So, I think that if, you're sitting here in the White House and somebody says, hey, Justice Department wants to look at all your emails or look at what you've been doing on this or that, then I would welcome the opportunity to show them that I'm fine. And I also think that that's what I would expect of every government employee. That you want government employees to sort of say, here's my proof that there's you've been nothing like the Minnesota thing going on. And anyway, so it's part of government to have people look at you, inspectors general, and check that what you're doing is completely on the up and up. And I think that it's part of government
pretty normal.
Here.
I actually think
that as well.
I think it's kind of ridiculous that Powell brought this out and basically called it partisan politics right now. He might feel that way about it, but again, he's pushing yields higher. And this is a normal part of the process of government, right? To ensure accountability. So I don't know. I just think it's kind of odd. I think a lot of people are on Powell's side because they've seen him for so many years. But I don't know. I think it was really a pointless fucking comment from yesterday.
Kevin, can you just weigh in on the state of the labor market in the U.S. right now? There's so many different cross currents in terms, the immigration.
And then we're going to look at
policies,
data
the participation rate
last week. And my thoughts on
we had, 50,000 wasn't as high as expectations, but the rate fell from 4.6 to 4.4%. Do you consider 4.4% pretty close to full employment at this point?
Right. Well, it's changing for two reasons. It's changing because we've got government employees that have been laid off because President Trump is reducing government spending. That's about 250,000 workers this year. That's a lot. And we also have people who are being deported and re-domiciled because they were here illegally and working. And I think if you add those two things, then a good, healthy labor report is probably closer to 70,000 than 140, 150,000, right, which is what it was back in the day. And so bottom line right now, I'm looking at the output numbers, and we got GDP now north of 5% in the fourth quarter after 4% the previous quarter. So I think you got to say that Trump policies are really working. They're really working, and they're working because they're onshoring production, they're causing factories to build, and in the fullness of time, I expect that to cause a job blowout in the second half of next year, especially.
We were putting the prediction markets all over our screens last week with Warsh in the lead. Warsh in the lead over the Kevin.
He's a good man.
I know you said I'm really happy with the job I have here, and we'll see what the president thinks about where I should be. I actually did see some people saying that you would be sorely missed at the National Economic Council, where you are now as a director. You got that nice office, which I saw when I was down there visiting the president. And you are a good spokesperson. You couldn't be the same type of spokesperson, not spokesperson, but you obviously are an advocate for the president's policies, and you can't do that necessarily. I mean, even coming on today after the developments of yesterday, you'll go anywhere, anytime to defend what the administration
without talking
doing.
Points, by the way.
Without talking points. So I can see that to some extent. Do you think you'll end up staying where you are and it's going to be someone else? Do you have any viewpoint on that at all that you can share with us?
Really made
what really happens with my life here in the White House is I come in every day and I do my job. And I'll do that tomorrow. I'm doing it today. And if my job changes, then I'll start doing some other job. But no, I don't have time to speculate about what might happen in the future because we have so much to do today.
All right, we appreciate it. National Economic Director Kevin Hassett. Thanks for canceling. Anyway,
good to see you.
Thanks for being on today. Thanks. Later on Squawk Box, Senate Intelligence Committee Vice Chair Mark Warner on Venezuela, Iran, and much more. He'll join us at 8:10 Eastern. Squawk Box returns in just a moment.
Let's kill that. I do want to show this. I'm just going to pull up the heat map real quickly and look at what it looks like this morning. Pre-market, right? All right. So pretty red this morning. Honestly, I don't look like this, though. I mean, Tesla's down 0.68%. But MicroStrategy's up 0.31, Iron's up 2.3, CleanSpark's up 0.26, Cypher's kind of flat. But these have started to lower in the morning. Metaplanet in Germany is like 3.16, I believe it is here. So that might be down to slightly up today. It doesn't look bad in regard to at least the hyperscaler power play. None of that looks really bad. Bitminer's up 1% in pre-market. Strive's up 3.5%. I don't know. Things don't look that bad today. They look pretty straightforward. ARC's getting a little bit of a bounce. This one's kind of been chopping all over the place, but I think it's just waiting for markets to stabilize and decide that they want to go higher. We're still sitting really good. We're grinding right where this 200 weekly moving average is, and I think establishing a base above it. So I'm really excited about ARCG. I think that's going to do good. Let me put that back over here. Let's get back over to here and then go back to U.S. economic data and really get moving here. So again, I think Jerome Powell, I'm not going to focus as much on that stuff, guys. I think that's all we needed to hear about it. The rest is basically noise. Again, we've got Donald Trump. I wanted to speak to this because personally I have experience with this. Him lowering interest rates from, I think right now the average median is about 23% when you look at the rates, is a super high number. Getting it down to 10. I love this. It might hit banks. Banks are probably not loving that today. Let's look back over here. Everything's kind of taking a hit, but banking's getting hit pretty good, probably more so than other areas. But I think this is actually great. I think it could fuck up reward points for a lot of people, which is okay. I don't give a shit. I think that's just a stupid thing. Like getting a reward point for spending your money seems pretty fucking dumb to me. And but I think it'll take away from some of that. I also think that With taking away from those reward points, though, one of the byproducts that you're going to get is you're going to get people at the lower end of the financial spectrum, like the bottom 30, 50%, that are struggling because, let's say, they've hit default rates, they had a bad experience, they couldn't pay down their card, now they've got this high interest rate. It just buries these people. I used to be a bill collector for some credit card companies in the past. One of them was Household Bank. I don't even know if they really have one anymore. But the credit cards that we offered were fucking horrific. The fees were incredibly high. And what I learned is they destroy poor people and suck like a succubus, pull out late fees and over the limit fees and default interest rates from people that are struggling, and they put them in a debt prison. And I want people to be able to climb out of that. This last 4 or 5 years might have been great for your portfolio. I know I've certainly done well. It retired me, right? Like I left with, about 300,000 in my retirement portfolio, maybe 350, I think it was. And then it got all the way down to 167,000, and then it ballooned up to, into the 5 to 6 range. And then right now I'm sitting around 3. So I've done really well because of all the stuff that's happened. But the people that were working for a living have just seen a massive increase in the cost of living with wages behind that. And so we need to do everything we can to fix the K-shaped economy. Keeping people in debt prison will not do that. So I think we need to give back, like Elon Musk said in that interview that he did with Peter Diamandis. We need to just give people money. And so if we have a K-shaped economy, the people we should be giving money to are at the lower end of the spectrum. I know Republicans that believe in austerity really hate the idea of that, but we're in an exponential age. We need to help the poor. We need to help people that have been beaten up by the economy. Best way to do that, get gas prices down, get their tax, give them a bigger tax return at the end of the year, get them to switch their withholdings to where they have bigger paychecks for 2026, and then lower their interest rates on their credit cards. There's people that we should be helping and making it to where they have more money to spend. The $1,776 checks for the military was a great idea. We need to do the tariff thing. We need to help the people that have been hurt the most. And unlike just a money printer going burr and printing off massive checks to people like me who were retired, and I was getting checks from the government, just fucking insane shit. Didn't make any sense at all. Instead, we're trying to target to help people. And I love it, like the Trump accounts, just everything that we're doing is just really great right now to help with affordability, making it to where, the 2 to 3% of houses that are bought up by the big guys, making it to where that is going to go away. Again, I just think these are brilliant things that just everything helps. The mortgage bond buybacks, everything helps. Invading Venezuela for 2 hours and then getting $4.5 billion in oil guaranteed to us over the next several months here. It all helps, and I think Iran will be a big part of that too. But I love this idea. I think it's a good one. I think it's better than the 50-year mortgage. We're actually, I think, at 1.87 this morning, but again, inflation just falling off a cliff, not even a concern. I put be an optimist when the sky is falling. This just talks about how what if you invested in the S&P 500 every time since CNBC had markets are in turmoil special, and it just shows how much money you would have made playing the contrary to that. Charts you won't find in a newsletter. Total debt again. I don't know why we're on this one. Maybe we'll get to some more relevant stuff here soon. Total debt for the China, though, in pink going up. And then, let me just scroll here. And then the United States going down. So these are very different situations that we're sitting in. I'm going to refresh here real quick. This is not the appropriate order. These things get weird sometimes. Here we go. Better. Seth Golden, so this is from JP Morgan. We've started to ask whether U.S. aggression overseas and at home will suppress investment and hiring. JP Morgan says no. Gap between uncertainty indices and VIX suggests markets are buoyed by a risk-on pro-cyclical environment than they are pressured by risk-off geopolitical strains. We're going to show you other indicators that show this as well, that show that the economy looks good right now, and if anything, it looks cheap. Ottavio Costa, he posted, the next leg is higher for energy stocks, could be explosive. We're going to look at that from a few different perspectives here. He's just showing that what normally happens, first gold, then copper, now watch energy. And so again, just kind of showing how we broke out of the base in gold, we broke out of the base in copper, gold led, and next energy stock commodities should go with that. I actually think that's going to be true. I think gold is probably right near the top or close to it. It could go up another 6%, 10%. Who gives a fuck? It's not that much compared to what I think the actual stock market, Bitcoin and crypto can do in the future. And then again, things like copper and silver could outperform that. They could continue a little bit higher, but I do think we're going to see a rotation into energy. And again, a rotation into Bitcoin and stuff like that. And so I think that that's coming. And you can see how timeline-wise, these are very similar, right? Very similar concepts. And you can even see it here. Look, gold goes first. You can see how this hadn't went yet. This goes next. You can see how this hadn't went yet. This comes next. You can just see it visually, very cleanly. Javier Milei, somebody who did a lot of the same stuff that Trump is doing right now, maybe not as much cost cutting from Trump, but we've got so many other things that we're doing that they can't do. But again, his approval rating has skyrocketed to 60% in Argentina. Poverty fell from 30 to 17%. That is insane from where it was. It was so much higher than that. It's crazy. Extreme poverty level fell from 11 to 5. Capitalism wins again. This is just fucking insane. This is the kind of stuff, the Bukele stuff, the Javier Milei stuff, these are all the things that are going to be happening for us. And how do we know that? Well, let's look at U.S. revenues to GDP. So if you look at this, this was from Van Eck, I think, yesterday when I was watching them. So if you look here, revenue, fiscal 2024, 2025, and 2026, 4.92 to 5.2 to 5.87. So you can see clear revenue growth. But the deficit for 2024 was 1.83. Then in 2025, it was 1.8. Then in 2026, it's 1.7. So you can actually see that the percent to GDP for this number is going down, which is positive. You want to see your deficits go down every fiscal year and your revenues go up. This is what any good business would want to see. This is what we are seeing. Zero Hedge, Life in the Fast Lane, Citadel Macro Guru says markets are underpricing U.S. growth. There's a lot in this one. We'll see how much we go through. What is this chart? We're looking at Bloomberg Citadel. Past performance figures do not match. Guarantee. Okay, which chart is this? U.S. cyclicals versus the 10-year and defensives. Way higher, 10-year low. Eventually, this gap is going to close. There's a bunch in here. I don't know if I'll go through all of it. And plus, it looks fuzzy for some reason. I'm not quite sure why. But it indicates a lot of the other stuff that I'm going to be showing you right now. Also, U.S. energy ETFs now account for less than 0.5% of total U.S. equity ETF assets. So again, we know that AI and robotics and all of the technological advancements that we're making, we know that they can make things cheaper and they can also reduce the amount of energy they consume. But we know we're going to be printing way more of these than we've ever printed before in history. And so, like, just at a very increasing pace every year. And so I would argue that we're going to need a lot of energy for that. And I think energy is going to be a great play. Again, I think Enphase is a sleeper. I think First Solar is a sleeper. I think Tesla is going to see a lot of improvement on the energy side. I think they're getting back into solar panels again. And we'll show you some of that here in a little bit. All right. I said this is no bear market indicator. Somebody did make a point that when all these things happen by the end of 2026, 2027, we might start to get into that. And that's possible, but we're going to talk about why that might not be either, because you can't compare this to 2020, the great financial crisis, the dot-com bubble, any of those time frames. Because in the 90s, we had IPOs all the time, and all you had to do was buy them and then just ride it for a month or two, get insanely rich, buy the next one, ride it for a month or two, get insanely rich. You could do that for like a year or two. You could just do that. You could just and I mean, honestly, if you were early, you could have done that for years. But so this could end up being a shorter one. But again, OpenAI, it's not even necessarily happening until early 2027. I don't think that might mark the top. OpenAI, I think, is probably not going to be a great company. They're getting their asses handed to them by so many companies, mainly Gemini right now, but also Grok and a bunch of others. So I can just see they don't have the total infrastructure, and they've kind of burned a lot of bridges with Microsoft. I don't know. I think that maybe that does end up marking the top, but if that's a year from now, I don't give a shit right now. I don't give a shit. And that this doesn't even include Anduril in here. There's a bunch more, but this is just, look at this list. In the .com bubble, this would have been Pets.com, like no business, barely got a website, and they've got one of the highest valuations in history. There was so much garbage that came out. Yeah, and then somebody referenced the 2021 range too, right after the pandemic, when we saw all these, reverse merger SPAC bullshit stuff, and everybody was buying fucking GME and meme stocks, and valuations were just crazy on some of this stuff. Like, you can't compare it to that. It was garbage. It was literal trash. I'm not going to say that SpaceX is trash. One of the trashiest ones on here is probably OpenAI, and they could do well for years. So I think that's bullshit. I think I'm really excited about what's coming. Let me get caught up with chat here. The only people that got rich off CLSK is management. I mean, that's not true, though. Last cycle, I made so much fucking money off of CleanSpark. I made a lot off of Riot, too, I think. I'm trying to remember who else I had. This cycle, though, not a lot, right? Like, not a lot this cycle. But I do think that they can do really well. CleanSpark did a great job building, man. Their hash rate, we're going to segue into this real quick, because I got to defend them a little bit. We need to look at Zeta, too. This might be a longer one today if you guys are up for it. I do have to focus on my health stuff. What am I doing? Okay, let me see. Let's do this one. Oh, you know what? Let me take this off the screen. Sometimes this locks up. But I do want to look at this. I think it's something that's worth looking at. Just 1 second here. I'm almost in. There we go. All right, let me pull it over. So I want to point out a few things in regard to CleanSpark. So I actually, when compared to other miners, I loved them. They did a good job. It gets harder to mine all the time. They still built out like crazy. Even though this kind of looks flat, a lot of that was just difficulty going up by an insane amount. And their Bitcoin holdings, they did a great job growing them. If we look over here, you can see mining hash rate just is beautiful. Like, they did a good job focusing on Bitcoin and their build out. They were a very tiny company. If you compared this to some of the other bigger ones, the amount of hash rate that they spun up in that period of time was crazy. And look at their revenues. They constantly go up. Their net income is starting to face upward. Cash flow does not look good yet. I think some of that's to be expected. They've got debt, but if you look at the debt for what's long-term versus short, it's just not as big of a deal. They've got plenty of time for Bitcoin to do well and for this to go up. And their operating expenses haven't really went up a lot either. I think it's the mechanics behind the money making of being a Bitcoin miner is fucking tough. And I think if anything, the AI, the pivot for some of these Bitcoin miners, being able to switch over to AI and be able to make a lot more money and consistently, I think for the next several years is a huge plus. But I think these guys can kind of still dual wield with Bitcoin. They've got a lot of Bitcoin still. I mean, again, if you look over here, they're doing good. Mara has more than them, but Mara and CleanSpark could also do a lot better if Bitcoin starts to go up soon. And I think the cleanest play, if you still like Bitcoin miners in any way, along with the extra boost of AI, which is just such a good boost. And Matt has definitely leaned into that. You got to remember, it's not the same CEO anymore. Zach Bradford's gone. Even though I thought he did a good job with the Bitcoin side, the mechanics, it's just really difficult to be a Bitcoin miner. It's very expensive. You have to buy a lot of equipment that depreciates very quickly. The good thing now is that the administration tax-wise has made it so much better to be a Bitcoin miner from what it used to be a long time ago. How do you think you'd build your Zeta position if it drops? I'd probably just buy more. I don't think it's going to go down that much, though. We can look at it in a second. But I do think CleanSpark, though, did a good job managing their stuff. Also, in regard to credit cards here, People were talking about how this is going to hurt these credit card companies. I do agree that it will. But I think that if you can save, so I said, does the White House want to kill off credit cards with high fees for merchants and customers to support crypto alternative instead? Again, we got the Clarity Act coming Friday, potentially. This would help with making the shift away from an old system, this credit card-based system, where you have 2 to 3% fees for merchant side. And again, you have these default rates on the credit card side that are really crazy. And kill that system and get people using stable coins and using non-traditional bank systems. I could see Trump wanting to do this to reduce the power of the JP Morgans of the world and create competition in the banking sector, especially when some of these people are politically against him and lobbying hard to preserve this old legacy system. So I don't know. Maybe this is a good way to give them some pain. Jacob says, I think one more minor pullback before the real rip. I don't know. I don't think it has to. It could, though. Again, Bitcoin is getting tested right now. You can see it in the bottom right corner. It's on the 200. This is the 3-day, but you can see how it's really the area it's sitting on right now. It's not commonly used. People usually do daily or weekly, but this works. And you can see the fight is right here. So we need to hold this area, and we need to build back up towards the 93,000 range. I think we could still do it. Is it a good entry for Kraken? I don't know. It's went up a lot. I mean, it's went up a lot, right? So over here in August or September, when you could have got it at 30 cents, I think that was a good entry. Right now, we're already at 560. And this is looking a little rich. It's a $1.75 billion company, but could it end up going higher? I mean, I think there's a strong. We just heard an extra $500 billion, 50% increase in the defense sector. So it's hard to know what it does over the near term, but I would say that you could probably buy it. I don't know if I'd throw everything into it right now. Again, I love that they have an Anduril contract, and Anduril I think is just a great company. The revenue is going up, right? Let's look at estimates though. But look at the cash flow. Like that's a lot of cash burn over here, 13, 14 million. They do have a lot of cash, so they've already done some share issuance. How much of that they're going to continue for ramping, who knows? But their cash flow, it's always nicer when they have positive cash flow. But the growth is what's really crazy on these. If you just look here, their estimates for the next several years, this is just going into the early part of through 2027. That is huge revenue growth. So it's all about whether or not these guys are going to grow and succeed. And so I own some. I want to follow the company and continue to understand the relationship with Anduril. And how likely it is that they can hold on to that. Have you looked at TE? No, I haven't. Which one's that? Who's the best person in regard to it? So I think it could be a good entry, but man, just realize that if people go poo-poo on the defense sector for a little bit, this thing's already run so fucking much. It's done like a 30x, right? I think a 30x, something close to that. EJ Antoni says the trade deficit tanking 39% in October was all good news, with exports up 2.6% and imports down. Again, we don't want to import a lot from overseas. We want to export more, and we want to get rid of this trade deficit. We don't want all of our wealth going to other parts of the world. And people are like, oh, you can just print more. And yet those same people hate Keynesian economics. It's like, we can't print more. The whole point is that we don't want to just be a money. If we're going to do any printing, it should be going into the real economy, because banks are lending more, and because we're doing buybacks of short-term treasury bills. We need to get lending increasing. We don't need to just do helicopter money, and we need to get our trade deficit down, and we're doing that. It's record levels, like 25-year levels. I love it. Somebody said part of the reason why the trade deficit was down was because, which boosted GDP numbers, was because of the fact of what was happening behind the scenes with gold. They say, what does it say when gold is leaving the U.S. in record amounts in short term, revealing a long-term collapse? I'm going to say no on that. I agree with Santiago Capital, again, the dollar milkshake theory guy. He says it's the rest of the world who is buying gold more than the U.S. is buying gold, because their fiat currencies are even worse than the U.S. dollar. I 100% agree with that. And I'm okay with us selling off gold to the rest of the world. right now. I think that's probably a good idea. I think Bitcoin's going to do better and our markets are going to do better. Rowan Dar said, if we get down to 4.99%, which looks like the direction we're heading into, the housing market is going to rip. I agree with him. So we got to 5.9. This guy is a San Francisco real estate agent, real estate investor in Sonoma, Kauai, Yosemite, Asheville, a bunch of places, right? He went to Stanford. So I agree with him. I think we got to 5.99 on the 30-year fixed. I was going to buy a house this last summer. I think it was closer to 6.75 at that time. So we're down, 75 bips, and I think we're going to continue to go lower, which is going to be awesome. And the housing market is going to open up, which is going to be great. Again, GDP projections are off the charts. If you look over here, the Atlanta Fed now estimate had us at like 2.75, and that was probably like in April or May. And then now it's just way the fuck up here in between 5 and 6. So things have changed a lot over that time. Anthony Noto, too, talking about the 10%. Everybody was like, oh, you're going to lose your reward points. Everybody's just shitting all over that Trump's idea. But Anthony Noto's like, honestly, we have better rates with our consumer loans. And sure, the credit cards would get hit a little bit. That wouldn't really impact us too much. And we would probably do really good loan issuance with better rates than what credit cards offer if people start to lose availability of credit cards. And again, that doesn't mean they can't get a bank account. That doesn't mean they can't get a secured or partially secured credit card to make it to where rates are better, to get it to that 10% mark. But if they do lose a credit card, they have other options too. And so I like the fact that he referenced that. Jesse Kirby said, Jesse, what do you think about Exxon and Chevron as an energy play? Visser likes them in addition to all energy plays. I don't love the fact that Exxon is fighting with Trump. Chevron seems like a better play to me. Aren't they the ones that stayed in Venezuela? But I love what Visser's saying. I do think energy is next. Again, we just looked at that chart. Energy is 0.05% or something of people's portfolios. I think energy could go up a lot. I really do believe that. We got Scott Besant here talking for 1 minute and 5 seconds just about how they're going after fraud across the entire country. Imagine this for the next 3 years. I think this is incredibly positive. It's a great way to get it to where we have the money that we need for the defense budget, and we're able to do things like give tariff-related checks and do things that are positive and help grow the economy. I've said this a bunch of times. We can't do austerity. It doesn't work that way anymore. You can't do that when you have a debt to GDP that's over 100%. You have to print it, but what you want to do is you want to grow the economy in an intelligent way. You can do some strategic planning. We know we need a lot of energy. There's a massive incentive for that. We're supporting AI. We're supporting Bitcoin and crypto. We're supporting pro-growth stuff. We're doing all the right things. And going after fraud will just allow us to be able to do even more of the right things to get rid of a K-shaped economy, get people happy when they vote at the end of this year, because that is a huge part of what Trump is doing. Somebody said, yes, Chevron still has rights to refine Venezuela and able to. Yeah, so they're still in Venezuela right now, and they stayed there the entire time. And that's a hard thing to do. I don't know. Chevron, without looking at the two and doing a strong comparison, I don't know what Visser said in regard to that. I haven't gotten through his entire video. I had so many things I was watching over this weekend. But I'll take a look at it. But just off the top of my head, I like Chevron more just because they're going to get that bump of being on Trump's side. He said nice things about them too. And he said non-nice things about Exxon. Let me see what else we have here. Jesse, Raul Ramirez. Hello, Jesse. Are you still holding those 2027 leaps on TLT? I am. And I think I even added some 2028s. I'd have to go and look. Or I thought about it, one of the two. But I still think that rates are going to come down. I think today we got a little bit of a bump. It's starting to come down a little bit more now on the 10-year. It was up like 0.85 or 0.87 or something, maybe even higher earlier. But this is still a rising, broadening wedge and an ugly one with lower highs. I mean, technically this one was higher, but then it was lower, 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 and we're lower here. And again, you can see where we're hitting resistance. This is very clearly resistance, support, support, resistance line. And I think we're rejecting against it right now. And I think we still roll over. This went up insane over a very short period of time, it's time for it to take a breather. The Trump administration is incentivizing that. That's my take on it. Let's listen to Scott Besson.
President Trump is committed to restoring accountability to put Minnesota back on the right track. Under President Trump's leadership, the entire administration is focused on delivering results for the American people.
Did you guys ever watch The Munsters? I think of Scott Besant as Eddie Munster. Is that the father? I can't remember anymore. It's been so many. It's been a lot of years, man. Some of you guys might not even get the reference of what I'm talking about, but he reminds me of that in some way. He's just a stiff dude, but he reminds me of that. But I love him. He's great.
Our citizens have a right to know that their tax dollars are not being diverted to fund acts of global terror or to fund luxury cars for fraudsters.
Sounds fair.
Democratic Governor Tim Walz has allowed welfare programs and fraud to spiral out of control. Billions
Herman
of dollars
Munster. Thank you.
intended
Eddie's
for
his
hungry
kid, right?
children,
Okay.
housing for disabled seniors, and services for children with special needs were diverted to people who cheated the system, some of whom are not even American citizens. At Treasury, we are thoroughly investigating the fraud, including funds sent to Somalia through money service businesses which provide financial services outside of a formal bank.
All right. I was going to type this response 1 second here. All right. Yeah. So I think that's great. I think it's great that we're going after them. I think it's great that we're doing the checkbox thing if they're wiring money. And the only reason the checkbox exists is they have to make a decision to check it or not check it. But they're going to be asked it. And so that's just a way to get it to where you can prove when people are wiring. So I've had comments about this from people. They're like, oh, well, stable coins, they could still do it and the government couldn't stop them, or with Bitcoin, or probably some of the better options would be like Monero or Zcash. Honestly, you want to use privacy coins that can circumvent and not have an audit trail, to where they don't have like good chain analysis, because Bitcoin's pseudo-anonymous. Stable coins have entry and exit points that are going to be heavily regulated. So you can stop all those things. But I don't even know that stopping the outflow in that way is what they're trying to do. I think what they're trying to do is kick people off these programs and or make an incentive to where if you do not want to get kicked off of your government funding, you tell your family in Somalia, I was going to say Somaliland, but that's actually a different place, in Somalia or in Mexico, because again, remittances are a huge part of their GDP. Honestly, just money coming from America. That's crazy, right? Why should we be allowing that? But these are huge amounts of money that flow out. And if people are on government benefits, they shouldn't be able to send that stuff overseas. We're changing the incentive, right? The incentive now is to not get caught sending money overseas so that you can keep your benefits. But if you don't do that, if you don't stop sending money overseas, which again, if you're keeping it here, if you're spending it here, it's a better thing. If you don't stop that, they're going to catch you, and then that just gives another reason to kick people off of these programs who are leeching off the system. And so I think the incentive plan is great. I'm not going to go through all of this, but there's a great video between Chamath talking to Howard Lutnick. Howard Lutnick fawns over Donald Trump for half the time, but he talks about how America's going to hit 6% GDP soon. Again, we know Elon Musk in an interview, and I'll probably show that to you in a little bit. He was talking about how we could see 10% GDP in 12 to 18 months. He said that earlier this month, and that we could see 100% in like 3 to 5 years or something. I think it was 5 years. You guys correct me in chat if I'm wrong. But just really fucking crazy numbers coming. I don't think people understand what an exponential age looks like and what the fusion of AI and robotics together, along with all the other stuff that's going on, is going to equate to. We even had OpenAI solving another math problem recently. Just a lot of really good stuff. BRICS. This is so funny. Santiago Capital, again, dollar milkshake theory guy. He was talking about how the BRICS, this is an old post from July of 2024, says Iran has agreed to link BRICS payment system. It wants to end the supremacy of the dollar and will trade in local currencies. Just think about how funny this is today. with Iran literally falling apart and their central bank giving up completely. It's just funny how things work out. And don't forget, again, Trump is doing $200 billion in mortgage buybacks. It's all this stuff is going to help, every bit of it. Let me see here. There are morons talking about $200 oil again. Reality equals we're probably hitting sub 50 again, which will devastate Russia as their margins are crushed and they have even less money to fund their war with Ukraine. Totally agree with that. This is the 10-year. I said the trend for the 10-year is clearly bearish and sitting on a cliff. I expect the 10-year to get to the 3% range this year. Mortgages could get into the 4% range, probably the higher end of those, but still pretty sweet. So all I'm pointing out here is if you kind of draw the line, it's almost like a head and shoulders. Some people could think that this is a bullish pennant and that we're going higher on rates. I do not see that. Again, the primary incentive for this government is to lower interest rates because it drastically lowers the interest that we're paying on our debt, and the interest on our debt is bigger than our defense budget. So we have a massive incentives to do that. My buddy Income Sharks put 2025 tariffs bad, 2026 tariffs good. Market pumping on no tariff decision. Isn't that funny how the markets did well? And I talked about this, how I thought it might be a nothing burger with the tariffs, and if that happens, the market goes up, and that's what happened. But yeah, it's amazing how people's perception of the tariffs have changed. Marco Rubio announces that NGOs are being cut off and all foreign aid will now go straight to national governments. This is a model. So we, again, closed off a shit ton of these NGOs and also just ended funding like multiple layers of these NGOs and these other incentives. Have we cut them off completely? A bunch of UN organizations. I think we had 60 plus that we jumped out of with those two on top of this kind of stuff, which is awesome. Mike Alford said, I'm being told by a source that Trump's plan to cap credit card interest rates at 10% is part of his plan to defund the banks. Stablecoins, crypto, Bitcoin, etc. are going to win big here. I agree with that. And I was talking about some of this stuff before he even posted that. And I 100% agree with what he's talking about. I kind of went over that. Venezuela, the $60+ billion Bitcoin shadow reserve. Markets focus on 17+ trillion in oil that Venezuela owns, but what they don't, in the ground, but what they don't know is that Venezuela is also the largest active BTC holder in the world, one of them. So you can see the size of Venezuelan seized Bitcoin is fucking huge, and people don't realize this. But again, we've kind of frozen everything, so we're holding on to those. So wouldn't it be interesting if we got to keep that? Wouldn't that be interesting? Again, we were able to do a lot to seize the funds that Maduro is trying to siphon out around the world. 600,000 Bitcoin. Isn't that insane? I can't even believe how nobody's talking about that. But essentially, the government owns that right now. This is a great post, by the way. I might actually... Here, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go in here and retweet this one again so that if you guys want to find it, you can. Because it goes into a lot of detail about this. But I think it's amazing that we could essentially add to our Bitcoin reserve because Trump has clearly made it. What did he do? He said he's the president of Venezuela, I think is what I saw recently from him. Oh, no. Got to jump back down here. So I just think that's amazing stuff. I've got a few more things I wanted to cover in here. Let me see if I can find them real quick. So many posts. Here, I'm just going to refresh. There are a couple of other ones I wanted to talk about that I'd done under the economics section of our discussions. Banks are zero. I think banks are going to go to zero. I think they're going to go to zero. Let me see what else I got here. One second. I got other good stuff I wanted to show you. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff. Wow, this moves quick. What the fuck? Let me go back here. Okay. Oh, I hate the way these bookmarks work. So again, Venezuela, lots of Bitcoin there. So Nick says Austin, Texas is now back to pre-pandemic apartment rents. I think that's great. Again, this is stuff that this is just happening sooner in Austin, but other parts of the country are experiencing the same kind of things where we're seeing an excess in supply of housing because they're priced too high. So they need to come down a little bit. But also at the same time, rents are looking really attractive, which will probably just continue to build up the amount. And you'll see a slow, I think a slow rollover in housing prices that will speed up once, again, if rates continue to drop like I expect them to into the spring. Like if we get another 25 bips in the March meeting, and then, which I think is like a 50% probability right now, then I think you'll see the housing market open up more. I think people will start to, as the summer goes on into the end of this year, you'll see people lowering the prices of homes, and you'll see the real estate market opening up. At the same time, you'll see shelter inflation continue to roll over as things like this happen around the rest of the country. I posted this earlier. I do believe that we are still in a melt-up scenario that can get us up into the 8,000s over the course of this year. If you look at 2027 is like over here. Technically, we could be in the 8,200 range if things really do well this year. I think that that's more likely than not. I know people were talking about Michael Howell. I think Michael Howell is really bullish and thinks that we're seeing a reset and a pop off in the Chinese market. He's thinking Chinese equities are seeing a cycle start while the U.S. is dying. I do not agree with that. I need to flesh out my thoughts more on that to talk about it in like a really constructive way that you can understand and that's articulate. But I do disagree with him, and I hate to do that because he was brilliant. At the end of 2022, I went balls to the walls. In 2023, I made over 600% in returns because of that reason across my portfolio. It was a really successful year. In part, it was because of him looking at liquidity. I just don't think that the man is looking at all the stuff that Trump is willing to do. We have a Davos, guys, is like, I think over this weekend, maybe Trump will be there. It might be the beginning of next week. He's going to be talking about a new plan to boost the real estate market. He hasn't even released everything that we're looking at doing. I'm really excited about that. Jesse, have I looked into ABCL? Not in a long time. Not in a constructive, not in a fundamental way. I haven't looked into it. Hey, I'm an Austin renter here. How do you like how have rents looked? Have they looked better over the last year? I mean, looking at that data, it looks like they should be. Galaxy, I'm not going to talk about the Greenland acquisition, guys. We will have our military all over Greenland, and I think eventually it'll be part of the United States. I don't know how many years that takes. I'm not really worried about it. Travis, what about the narrative of midterm years historically sucking? I don't know. That's probably true, but I also don't think that could be true for a different reason. So I think that Trump did everything he needed to do in 2025. I think he bit the bullet. He tariffed the shit out of people. He pushed through the legislation he needed for the big, beautiful bill to be able to get it to where we could have these pro-growth policies that we want. We're the lowest corporate tax rate. I'm going to show you that in a little bit here of a developed nation like on earth right now. And so everybody wants to come here to invest. And Trump created all these incentives for people to do that, like tariffs being a big one, right? He ended a bunch of wars because of tariffs too. So I don't know. I just think that this is a really good time that people like Michael Howell aren't taking into account. They're just looking at their one specific area. Even Michael Howell said, hey, I was really confident at the end of 2022 with my beliefs. Right now, it's maybe like 50-50 or 51-49. So I think he's not as confident that global liquidity is, he's exactly right about his vision, which I think is, I disagree with it. So I was glad to hear that he's not as confident as he was at the end of 2022. But I'm less worried about the midterms. Let's look at other data here, though. E.J. Anthony, PhD, posted this one as well. He said, the steady rise in employment over the last several months has been closing the unprecedented gap between employment and payrolls. There's much more going on in the labor market than the headline suggests. I 100% agree. I really like this guy. He goes by Real E.J. Antoni. He's got, what has he got? What is his history? Economist, Vince, Coglani's, Heritage. He's worked for some big companies. But if you look here, you can see where, again, this shows normal payrolls in gray, employment levels in orange. You can see how COVID fucked it all up. You can see how we just couldn't get it right, though. Once we started raising rates at the most aggressive rate in history, I don't know how well you can see this. Hopefully, you can't see it too well. But the most aggressive rate in history was, I'll try and get my pointer where you can see it. We started raising rates at the most aggressive rate in history in 2021 right here, okay? And you can see where we created this disparity. between the employment level and the normal non-farm payrolls. And so we're closing this gap. It's a good thing. It's just another sign of strength that we're starting to curve up, and that Trump is doing the right stuff, which I love. Chris Patel said, everything I see economically makes my stomach turn. We're basically kicking the can down the road on issues that need to be addressed. I don't think that's true. I said this model assumes rates stay high and in no way factors in accelerated growth from the foundation that real Donald Trump has laid out this last year, or the effects of the USA being a leader in AI and robotics, which we are and will continue to be, or again, Bitcoin, crypto, all the legislation, the Clarity Act. But if you just look down here, it shows adding 2% interest, adding 1% interest, extend spending policies, extend TCGA. What it's not looking at is not adding these and then starting to see growth and having some of this roll over. And I think that's what we're going to be seeing, but it is not reflecting that at all. Yes, trillions with a T. Secretary Duffy has told Sean Ryan that Congress handed Pete Buttigieg $2 trillion and no one can explain where it all went. Again, just ridiculous. No accountability whatsoever. I think that's good. I don't know if that covers all the U.S. economic. There's some others that I wanted to cover. You know what I'll do, though? We'll jump over here and go to highlights because I know they're in here. And so I don't know why the bookmarks don't always show what I want to show, but they are here. Okay, here we go. Shelter inflation will drop a lot over the next year. New family housing inventories, screenshot below. So if you just look at this, you can see how we're nearing levels that are like 2007, maybe 2007, as far as total housing inventory. Now, the difference here, guys, is people had 2 or 3 homes, and they were like, everything was insane. The rating agencies were all lying. People were incredibly overextended. That is not the case right now. Again, there's just a lot of houses on the market because they're trying to get that 50% increase in home price that happened since COVID, and people aren't willing to pay that anymore because they just haven't made enough to do that. So this inventory is building up. It's going to be great heading into the spring, and again, I think it'll start to roll over. It says rates going lower, so shelter inflation will drop a lot over the next year because, again, new family housing, tons of it, too much. And rates going lower because of bond buybacks and more. See real Donald Trump's Davos announcement next week. Existing home sales opening up for the first time in over 3 years. Again, there's going to be all these houses, all these new homes are piling up. All the existing homes have been frozen because they want to see that rates are coming down. They're starting to see that. So that's going to start to open up all at the same time. We're deporting illegals that were driving rents higher. And then we got deregulation. So all these reasons are going to help pull shelter inflation down and keep inflation lower, which I think is really good. Gold compared to M2 money supply is at its highest level it's been since the Great Depression. So that is higher than in the 80s, into the 70s, right? So we're looking at a point where everybody's expecting the world to fall apart. And I think some of that is real. In China, I think that's real. In Russia, I think that's real. Iran hasn't been doing super well. And there's other economies around the world, again, that are just suffering because we are the cleanest shirt in the dirty laundry. So I do think some of this is real for these other countries. It's definitely not for the United States. The United States is not heading into a Great Depression. So I do think that this, again, is another indicator of a top signal. I said some people don't understand that with the advent of AI and robotics, we still need to help prevent the negative ramifications of a K-shaped economy. Like Elon Musk said, print checks and get them to the right people, just in regard to the 10% and all the stuff, right? We need to help the lower end a lot. Ernst said, JP Morgan no longer expected Fed rate cut, predicts hike. Yeah, I think that's stupid. JP Morgan's stupid. They also don't like Donald Trump and they debanked him. So I think you got to look at Goldman Sachs as having so much invested in China that they want to see it do well. So they're saying positive things about China. JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon does not like Trump. Even though I will say this, for a liberal, he definitely sounds like the most conservative liberal banker you're ever going to meet in your life. But he does not like him right now, and they are combative. 30-year fixed rate mortgage rates have come down steadily. And don't get me wrong, maybe we don't have a lot of additional rate cuts until the mid part of the year or second half of 2026. That's possible. That's very possible. Mortgage rates have come down steadily under Trump's administration. That will continue and probably even speed up in 2026. I think that there's just things that people don't think about with these rates. They think that if the economy is doing well and if we're printing checks and getting them to people, that the economy just has to have inflation. But if you're pulling down a lot of the things that create that inflation, like shelter, energy prices, etc., then you just won't have that. And if you have innovation occurring, if you have productivity increasing, you could have some like version of growth related inflation, but it's not a bad thing. It's not harmful. Having strong growth isn't harmful. And inflation, if it's controllable, if it's not like boom, jumping up to 9-10%, if it's staying within a 1-2% range, you could still be accommodative and have the rate that the Fed is pushing go down and have it actually be accommodative and have yields still dropping because people are going risk on and they're while at the same time they're like, hey, you know what? Gold's overextended. The world isn't falling apart. Maybe I'll start buying some of these bonds. The government's doing it. I just think things can be better than people realize. And again, fixed 30-year mortgage, you can see since Trump started, we're trending down in the right direction. That's a beautiful thing. The SPX to oil ratio is a thing of beauty. It's reflecting a breakout territory similar to what happened in the 80s. Again, just remember that oil price mean low base cost for everything. I do agree with that. And if you look over here, you can see how even when this thing topped out in probably like 98, 99, and eventually it rolled over. It topped out in 2020 when things got really crazy. I don't think we're at a top yet, and I think it can continue to go higher, much higher probably. Okay, so this is U.S. corporate high yield treasuries versus the 10-year spread, and it just shows that there is no fear right now in the markets. You can see what it looked like in 2008 during the great financial crisis. You could see how the early 90s where we had problems, the dot-com bubble where it got high. You can see over here at the pandemic where it went really high. But we're just there's no fear right now in corporate treasuries that the world is falling apart. And I did want to cover this real quick. Just one of the best reads for the initial jobless claims in 25 years. Let's just listen here to Rick Santelli when he was talking about it.
I'll go up. This is unreal, the movement in this number. Minus 29.4 billion. We cut it basically in half. We cut it in half. Just consider this. In March, it was 136 billion. Right now, it's a whisker under 30 billion. We haven't been that small in a long time. I don't have enough records here to go back that far, but you're going back away.
So that was just, it's really cool that here's a better chart for it right here for the trade deficit. So we're up here right now. You can't even see it. It's so down. The Bitcoin thing's in the way, but we were so far down that graph at the very bottom of it, and now we're at levels that if you go back over here, it's before the 2000s for the trade deficit. So we've done remarkable things that all the big macro experts said weren't possible, but they're possible if you believe in the power of what Donald Trump's administration is able to accomplish. And this is fucking amazing, considering the trend was just horrifically down. To see it rebound so quickly and get up here and close so dramatically, it just shows a lessened dependency on China and many other countries. I said this week and you're bearish. So again, this is just from what happened last week. $500 billion for defense, extra spending that we're going to focus on that. $200 billion on mortgage bonds to drive down the yield on them. And then 200,000 barrels a day in from Venezuela. Venezuela releasing political prisoners. Not only did they release 800 political prisoners that nobody's talking about, Nicaragua is releasing theirs too because of their fear. Because one of the weapons that we evidently used when we were there made it feel like your skin was on fire and dropped people to the ground when they were hit with it, which is why they couldn't fire back and kill U.S. soldiers, is because they were too busy laying on the ground, weeping, waiting for the pain to go away. So even if that wasn't true, that's the narrative that's out there, and it puts a lot of other governments at pause. Colombia started to talk nicer. The Mexican president is trying to talk to the Trump regime, the Trump government, regime, whatever, close. And I think it just shows how much power we have. MYPJY. Yeah. Oh, wow. 10%. Metaplanet up 10% in pre-market, guys. At least MPJPY. And it's doing well in the German market. I want to say it's up 3%. And in Japan, it closed up 9%. So looking really good, even though I believe the tax situation, like one of their benefits was it was a great tax break in your investment account. But I do believe that taxes dropped like by half. Instead of income-based tax, it's like 20%. So kind of like a long-term capital gains thing in Japan that happened like this last week. So that's interesting too. Scott Besson announces that people collecting government aid, cannot wire money. SLR ratio, again, guys, that just happened. Nobody's talking about it. But the SLR ratio getting modified or starting at the beginning of this year is a big deal. It's going to help open up lending too. I think when Iran collapses, I think the market's going to go fucking A-list. And again, we talked about how the MSCI delisting for Bitcoin treasuries was a nothing burger. We've got good tailwinds behind us, I think, that people aren't focusing on. Let me see here. What else? All right. I think that's enough for that. I'm going to jump back over here. I'm going to go into where to go next. There's so much stuff to talk about. Let's go into Trump. We'll get into main points here, and we'll go through this real quick, though. I said it must be exhausting to be a white liberal nowadays. In the span of 2 weeks, you go from no kings to Maduro is okay, no war with Venezuela, and then the war only lasted 2 hours, to supporting Islamic terrorism, all while ignoring all the people who experience the stuff telling you you're wrong. Again, they're not even doing anything to help Iran. They're finally starting to talk about it. It's just all very fascinating. Shamath put, over the last decade, California's spending overall has doubled while its population stayed flat. Double spending, flat population. State's education budget has doubled while the number of students has declined. Isn't that crazy? The state is horribly run. Elon Musk put 500,000 known fraudsters in California. 449,000 registered voters couldn't perform jury duty because they weren't citizens. So we got 500,000 non-voting or voting non-citizens. Absolutely crazy. Whether you like Kristi Noem or not, she's definitely gotten some work done on her face over the years. I can tell you that. She said you don't get to change the facts because you don't like them. What happened in Minneapolis was an act of domestic terrorism. And what she was talking about is there is a group of people that are using like an ICE tracking app. They live in a different state. And I'm not going to go into all that stuff, but these women, they lived in a different state and they were antagonizing ICE officers. They sat in the same place for 3 to 4 minutes, blocking traffic. And then when the cops told them to get out, the wife started to open the door to the truck and said, drive, 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 while she had a police officer in front of her who had been hit and dragged down the road for like a quarter of a mile or something, bloodied and beat up just 6 months earlier. And so he grabbed his gun and he shot. And that's what I see people do all the time who are police officers in a situation like that. They pull their gun and they shoot. That's how it works. And these women do not have to be there. They definitely don't have to be violent, and they don't have to be saying shitty things to these fucking ICE officers who are trying to do their job. Trump won by far. Like, he won everything. He won counties, cities, states, popular vote. He won everything in every way that you can win. He won the Senate. He won the House. He won the presidency dramatically. Everything turned red. And part of what he ran on was closing the border and getting rid of violent illegal immigrants. And that's what we're doing. 70% of the people that are getting taken away are violent criminals who are doing bad things, whether they were human trafficking, drug trafficking, raping, killing, whatever it was. Those are the people that we're getting out. The other 30% are people that are around them. And then the vast majority of the people leaving are leaving on their own fruition. So I'm tired of this shit. And also this guy right here, he's like, guys, I protested so many fucking times in my life. And he goes, I protest all the time. He goes, but the thing that you'll notice is I get arrested. I put my hands behind my back. I comply. He goes, you don't have to worry about getting hurt at a protest if you comply. And I 100% agree with that. We've got authorities discovered 700 million in suitcases attempted to be taken out of the country by Somali couriers at a Minnesota airport. By law, you're only allowed to take out 10,000. $700 million these guys have been funneling out physically from the United States to Somalia. Also in Chicago, here's an ICE protest. Look how fucking tiny it is. These people are lying to you. And Minneapolis, Minnesota, let's not forget that a Somali cop shot this fucking woman to death, a white woman, and nobody protested that. None of the Democratic leadership protested that and said how disgusting it was that a Somali cop blew away the fucking woman who called for help. And yet, all of a sudden, this white girl who fucking tried to run over a cop, hit the cop, and got shot in the process is such an amazing victim and somebody that we need to hold up and give. I think they've donated $1.5 million to her family. It's astonishing. It shows where we are as a society right now. And again, deportations. Democrats love this shit. If you're a criminal, you'd be deported. We talk about that all the time. I won't go through all of it. Let's see if there's anything else. We need to pass the SAVE Act. Again, all these other countries require IDs. Why wouldn't the United States? And I agree with Adam Livingston. Trump not bluffing. Really want this guy out as soon as possible before midterms. This coupled with the banking lobby starting to fight with the Clarity Act. Again, another person talking about how, Trump is trying to hurt the banking lobby and trying to help the crypto industry and some of these non-bank companies. And I think that's great. The irony of this, listen to this old man. He's going to tell you, who are these ICE officers? Where did they come from? How do we know they're good at what they're doing? This just makes me laugh because it reminds me of exactly what Republicans have been saying about illegal immigration. Who are these people that are coming into our country unvetted? They could be killers. They could do bad things.
And my larger question is, who are these people? Where are they coming from? What training do they have? Are they Proud Boys? Are they Oath Keepers? Where are they getting these people from? Because our police in Minneapolis have a hard time recruiting people, qualified people to go through training. Who are these guys? Where they're from?
Yeah, so it's funny how they can see this thought process with ICE agents, but they can't see it with, 11,200 and something murderers that we let into the country unvetted over the last 4 years. Again, Trump changed his, Trump posted this, Donald Trump, acting president of Venezuela. Somebody had put, right here, incumbent acting president. Fucking ridiculous. Funny as shit, though. Definitely a sign of the world. Elon Musk said, if the American public is unable to influence the outcome, we do not live in a democracy. The House, Senate, and presidency are Republican, and yet a single activist masquerading as a judge is able to force fraud to continue. This is talking about making sure that the daycare money continues in the state while we fight that with the Supreme Court. It's insane that these activist judges are able to have complete control over our country. We are fighting them away, but we need to be able to speed up the process. The Supreme Court needs to make it where when things like this happen, they prioritize these to the front over the short term, or they reprimand these lower court judges. Something's got to change. This is funny as shit, I think. It says, Maggot deserved it. This is the lady that got shot on January 6th. Sucker, the shooter missed. Oh, hey, we should have blew up Trump's head. Oh, the fascists had it coming. Charlie Kirk, everybody loving and celebrating the death of this man. But she was a peaceful protester trying to run over a cop. I just think there's so much truth in that. It's funny. Palmer Luckey said it's critical aspect of the billionaire tax. It makes founder-led companies. This, again, is bullshit in California. Even Gavin Newsom doesn't want this. Makes founder-led companies practically illegal. If a founder of a CEO has a 1.5 or 1 billion private company, owns 3% but keeps 100% of voting power, he gets taxed on the value of the whole company. So if you only have 3%, you get taxed on the whole company. That's why the Google founders had to leave too. There was $2 trillion worth of billionaires that were in California a month ago. And right now, when you add up all the ones that have left, including Sergey and his friends, It's 1 trillion, or what did I say? 2 trillion. Now it's 1 trillion. So they're losing a ton of tax revenue, guys, massive amounts. Somalian fraudsters. If you look here, Somali are in black with children, and with children greater than 10 years in the United States. So what you're seeing here is Somalis have at a much higher rate, even when they've been here 10 plus years, they just suck off the system and they don't disattach themselves from it. I think that if they're doing this and if they're grossly abusing the system, they should be deported. I think they should be deported and lose their citizenship or have a time to come into compliance, or at the very least lose their government aid. I think if you make the aid go away, you probably get them to go away too, potentially. They don't want to work, right? Jesse, can you look at the wolf chart? Wondering if I should take profits. Yeah, we can look at that. We'll look at that in a second too. I don't know how well it's done, so but remind me a little bit later and we'll look at it. Whatever, this is probably good here. Let me just go here, AI and chips. I said people really need to watch this. I'm going to watch this minute and 20 seconds. I just want you to hear what Elon says. And people are like, oh, Elon's been so hopeful. Here's my argument here. Elon, in the last 2 years, we've had amazing advent in artificial intelligence and assistance, and in everything is better. In just the ability to code, everything is better, getting dramatically better. And so we're just really close to the things that were probably prerequisites for Elon to be able to have his cars drive themselves around and have robots that can do useful things. I think people are really dramatically adding extra time onto how long things are going to take based on the fact that it took so long for FSD to happen. It took so long. But Elon's right about a lot of timelines normally. He's right about a lot of them. This has been the hard one, and it's one of those problems where it's a thing that nobody had ever done before. But I would argue the last 2 years have changed this dramatically in his favor, with him getting better at timelines.
When do you think Optimus will be a better surgeon than the best surgeons? How long for that?
3 years.
3 years. Okay. Yeah. And by the way, that's
I'd say 3 years.
You have to watch this video.
At scale.
Yes.
There'll probably be more Optimus robots that are great surgeons than there are all surgeons on Earth.
And the cost of that, but that's an important.
So that's a really cool thing that he just said. And he actually in here says it could take even 4 years, but whatever. He said he feels really confident about the timeline within 4 years, which means he's saying 2030, right? Or close to it. And so like if we have more high quality surgeons on Earth in 4 years because of these robots, than we have actual surgeons on Earth right now. Surgeons, they could have a shaky hand. They could be not paying attention. They can do so many things wrong. A robot would do it with high level precision easily. It just has to have a brain.
Important statement in 3 years' time.
Yeah.
And that's what we're building right now.
Medicine, I mean,
I'm not like absolutely certain, but I'd say if you say like 4 years, I'd be absolutely
If it's 4 or 5 years, who cares? It's still an
extreme precision.
Yes.
3 years. Yes. Better than any.
I actually saw robots. I had an internship in the project management department of a hospital system where I live years ago when I was going back to school. And I actually watched a surgery getting performed by a robot. There was a person on the other side of the world that was doing it, but the robot is able to help with the precision and make it even better. And so that person that's like a master in their field was able to remote in and use this robot arm to perform the surgery and do everything that it needed to do with this woman. And that was amazing. Robots were already better back then. That was like a decade ago. They were already better back then than humans. It was just you needed the human as the brain to guide it. Imagine how much better they are when you don't need the human brain to guide it because they have their own. And I think we're just really, really close to that.
And I'd say if you like put a little margin on it, better than any human in 4 years.
Who's in plastic
We'll
surgery?
Look at a bunch of charts.
By 5 years, it's not even close.
I think your
about
point was
20 minutes. Market opens up at 9.
Is going to be effectively free. The best medicine in the world.
Everyone will have access to medical care that is better than what the president receives right now.
So don't go to medical school.
Yes, pointless. Yeah. I mean, unless you, But I would say that applies to any form of education. It's not like some. I do it for social reasons. Yeah,
you're not going to medical school.
if you want to hang out with like-minded people, I suppose.
That's going to be everything in the future. I think you won't go to school.
When do you think?
Because you have to learn and do all these things. You'll be able to do that with the AIs and the systems that you work with, and the work will become more optional. It'll be more about like, do you love the medical field? Do you still want to be a part of it? Do you want to understand it? It'll be more like a hobby than anything, which is crazy. Chubby put, total compute is doubling every 7 months, and 60% are NVIDIA chips. Yes, even compute is growing exponentially. Again, there's so many other areas where this applies with the market, but with compute growing at this pace, the demand for companies like Iron and Cipher that have the ability to be able to spin up data centers that have connections to dedicated power, I think that's going to be huge. You have this Oklo contract where, like, they're talking about 5 years out with like 2030 for being able to get dedicated power with that. And imagine the demand for the short-term power right now, because we've got all these chips being built and they're advancing at a really crazy rate, incredibly powerful, like within 2 generations doing 10x more performance. And so the build out is going exponential, the efficiency is going exponential, and then the investment into them is going exponential. It's just crazy. Grok went from 0 to 16 trillion tokens in under a year. This is just so cool. This is just so cool. So Grok Code Fast 1 just topped the Open Router 2025 usages. 16 trillion tokens, nearly double the next best model. Outsprinted Claude, Gemini, DeepSeek, and everyone else. Built for speed. This thing's only been around for such a short period of time. What is it, a year? Is Grok a year now? Fuck. That's just crazy. It's just nuts that what's been accomplished over that time. McFly put, Iron Cipher, they have all the assets coming online before 2028. Keep in mind, ERCOT, Texas is widely recognized by energy analysts and developers as having the fastest queue to commercial operation timeline on the continent. I have this guy blocked. Why do I have him blocked? ERCOT's large load queue jumped almost 300% last year. The queue, look at this, load queues in Texas increased by nearly 300% in 2025. Anyone that's looking for a power today can expect to receive the approvals more than 5 years from now. I don't know why I have him blocked, actually. Maybe that's a mistake. I'm just going to go in here, unblock this person. All right. Yeah, so that's just crazy, okay? Ladney talked to the Intel CEO. Vlad says we're past the event horizon. Mathematics is going through the biggest transformation in histories, and we're still early. Just again, all these problems are getting solved. This was ChatGPT solving a mathematical problem. I don't know if they have 2 or 3 of those done that are on this board, but that's fucking awesome. Micron, New York's $100 billion fab, is moving forward. This was January 8th, but producing critical chips and AI and consumer devices. So again, looking to have 50,000 jobs. What does it say? $100 billion project generating 50,000 jobs will be the most advanced memory manufacturing facility. Yeah, that's just fucking crazy. Do they have a timeline? Let me see if I can find the timeline. What? We'll just ask. We'll ask real quick here. Let me look at chat too. Yeah. I am happy that what is MGP? What is Metaplanet doing? Still up 9.52%. We'll see if that lasts. CleanSpark is flat to down. Cipher is down 0.78. Iron is up 1.37. Strategy's down 0.22. Tesla's down 1.2. So it looks like the market's weakened a little bit this morning. ARCG doing better, though, up 2.23%. ASST, 2.46. Palantir, flat-ish. But it looks like the markets are, they're doing all right. They've weakened a little bit more. Let me see. What does it say? January 2026. Next timeline. March, 11 speed to begin high volume ramp with strong yields. Throughout the calendar year, major capacity growth, DRAM. Long term, late 2027, introduction. So there's just, it's giving me the timeline for Micron as a company. But it's positive. Not sure about this actual facility, but it's positive. What did he say? He said something unique here. Nuts. Whoever is trying to slow this down politically in the USA is a Soviet agent sleeper. I think that was directed at Bernie and some of these others. All right, I'm going to jump out of this. Jump into Tesla. Just a lot of good things going on with everything that Elon touches. So I want to talk about that. Yasin said, I am completely shook by the design of Grokpedia. Grokpedia has only been around a couple months, guys, and it is already almost as big as Wikipedia and better. He said, Grok wrote a 10,000-word article about my career. It was 95% accurate, but it got one big thing wrong. It said I got divorced. Truth is, I was never married. Instead of begging an anonymous editor to correct this, he just simply clicked on it and said that and inputted it, said it was wrong. And then Grok went out and searched the internet and went to deep analysis and then came back and said, oh, hey, you're right. That's true. And it approved it and fixed the error. So Grok will do the research. And then, again, it can go to a human if it absolutely has to for some reason. But I would think those are the anomalies. The 99+% can be processed by the AI. And in the future, it'll probably be close to 100. This is just fucking awesome. And this solves problems for like support centers around the world. This is just really cool shit. We got Tom Lee buying $4 million in Tesla stock for disclosures here. That's cool. We got Elon Musk, Grok, #1 in everything. If you look at this, human preference, developer choice, emotional intelligence, creative flow, financial alpha, compute power projected. It's just, they're just going to keep growing like fucking crazy. Smell Shock, TSE had a stat holiday last night, so 33.50 did not trade. Oh, okay. All right. Good to know. Well, I mean, JPY, it might drop after open, but it is still up almost 10%. So it's doing good there. Thanks for that, though. It's awesome seeing Elon Musk build closer relationships with this administration. So there's John Thune and a couple of others here. They were visiting the Gigafactory and getting an idea of what Elon's building. And I love that. I think these guys, especially the rhinos on the Republican side, they need to understand more closely what's going on within our economy and what technologies are going to lead us in the future. Again, Grokpedia versus Wikipedia. There's already 6 million articles in Grokpedia. That's just insane. I put the most transparent and free platform on earth. No wonder they're trying to ban it. This just says Elon just announced the new X recommendation algorithm, including the code behind both organic market just open, guys, will be fully open sourced in 7 days. So again, what changed? And each time we do an update every 4 weeks, what changed, why it changed, and how recommendations are evolving. That is such a cool thing to be doing. People are spending 43% more time in the app over the last 6 months. It's an all-time high. We got Colossus 3, xAI's third data center getting spun up here that they're going to be working on in an 8,000 square foot facility in Mississippi. President Trump is restoring America's technological innovation. This shows how SpaceX has the ability to deploy up to 15,000 next-gen satellites, which is fucking awesome. Let's check the market real quick and see where we're sitting here. Still up 0.53% on the 10-year. Let's go over and look at this. So this was right before the market went live. You can see how everything was still pretty red. And let's see how we're doing now. Looks like we're getting a bounce. Well, no, I don't think this is updated. This is probably from Friday. Doesn't seem accurate yet. There we go. That looks more accurate. So things are down even more. Let's see. Iron is up 0.6%. Cypher's down 0.25 or 2.5. CleanSpark is up 0.26. MicroStrategy is down 1.5. Tesla's down 1.5. Metaplanet. Let's see. Did that end up opening up? Just going to refresh it. ASST's up 0.56%. ARCG's up 3, so that's good. It's finally coming back. It was rough last week. I don't know. Things don't look too crazy. Enphase is up 0.3%. Rest of the market looks pretty docile. Palantir's flat. It doesn't look crazy. It looks like things are just kind of consolidating right now. Yeah, it's been 1 year since the Grok standalone app officially launched, and it probably like a year and a half for Grok or less. Pretty awesome. Shamath says he doesn't believe that SpaceX will IPO this year, but rather do a reverse merger with Tesla. I don't think that's very likely, but let's listen to it real quick.
My contrarian belief number one is I don't think
What do you guys
SpaceX will
think?
IPO. I think that it will reverse merge into Tesla, and I think Elon will use it as a moment to consolidate control and power of his two seminal assets into one cap table.
Oh my God, I love that. Wow.
Well, he's talked about that before.
But I worry about monopoly-related risk. But maybe with this administration, you don't have to worry about it. But I worry, like, if Democrats did get control, I just don't know. I'd love to see it.
Talked about having a holding company for years of all of the collection. You could put Neuralink in there too, right, Shimon? You could put in the Boring Company as well.
Sure. I'm just giving you my contrarian take. There will be no IPO of SpaceX. I think it'll just be, it specifically will be a reverse merger.
There you go.
My contrarian belief number one is I don't think SpaceX will IPO. I think that it will reverse merge into Tesla, and I think Elon will use it as a moment.
Yeah, so I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. Nikita, he works for X. He said, highest engagement days on X. Best Monday ever. Sunday was, best Sunday ever was yesterday. Best Saturday was the day before yesterday. Best Friday. So he's saying that they're just they're ramping up significantly. I think all these geopolitical things are helping with that too. Tesla Optimus has a brain. I just wanted to show this. So again, everybody gets excited with these unit train robots.
So can I punch anywhere? Or preferably not the head. Yeah. The head, it doesn't have like a motorized joint. Okay. It's mounted and...
But this guy's just remote controlling this fucking toy that can figure out how to stand upright. So, like, I don't know. It's got to have a brain. I'm going to stick with that. Tesla officially started deliveries of its new redesigned solar panel, residential solar panel, all black finish. So again, they're kind of staying away from the solar roof concept for now. I think it's just too expensive. But they are making these things beautiful. It sits closer to the roof, thicker architectural frame, lasts longer, all black finish, 420 watt up from 410, 18 power zones, meaning shade impacts far less of the panel. So you don't lose efficiency if you have like shade over one part of your solar. And it's cheap and it's pretty good modular efficiency and 25-year product guarantee. It's cool stuff. It seems like they're getting ready to focus on solar and mega packs a lot, I think, this next year. Kenner Fitzgerald, it looks like they just said, hey, there's a bunch of huge catalysts. FSD supervised in China in the first half of this year. Supervised in Europe, pending approvals first half of this year, robotaxi expansion, cybercab rollout, semi going into commercial production in a big way, and then Optimus commercial launch in the second half of 2027. I think there is a ton going on this year in regard to just everything going on at Tesla. It's going to be awesome. All right, I think that's good enough for now. Let me see if there's anything else here. We'll go to Bitcoin. And again, I already talked about this Bitcoin gold ratio. I think it's finding strong support. Where's that sitting right now? Yeah, we're still finding support above the 200. If you look over in the corners, that orange line on the bottom right. And I think that's going to continue to happen. Somebody put Goldman Sachs said gold could hit 5,000 per ounce. Now, I think Coin Bureau made the statement about if gold repeated 2025, it would be at 7,000. That's just not going to happen, man. It's just not going to happen. Again, you're talking about a $50 trillion asset. I don't know where the other $20 trillion in printing came from, but I'm going to say it's probably not going to happen. If you did good off of gold, congratulations. How do you feel about 2-year Tesla calls for this year? I haven't looked at them to see if they're a good value, but they're probably 2 years. I think the next 2 years are going to play out to be really well. You got to find your target, though. I would think like 900 would be where you'd want to look at 2 years from now. It's probably a safe zone with a lot of upside, but I haven't looked. I'm trying to avoid leverage. I'm just trying to be really cautious right now, optimistically cautious, like still holding stocks that hopefully don't have a lot of room to go down, that have already been beaten up a lot and that have an asymmetric upside bet, but just the stock, not adding time as a risk. Smarter Web Company looks like, again, they're going to be listed on the London Stock Exchange. That should give them more liquidity and help it go higher. I don't know how they're doing today. Let me look here. Smarter Web is up about 10% on the day. Well, I should say this. In the UK, they're up 17%. In the US, they're up 9.5%. So it is getting a bounce. EOS Energy, I don't know what happened there, guys. They're up 5% today. Metaplanet, I think, is still, let's see here, doing all right, up about 4.72. CleanSpark's up 0.86 now. Iron is up 4.5%. It is looking good on a bounce. Let's get to charts real quick, guys. If you have a chart you want me to look up, let's pull it up. You can see where, again, I said iron needs to bounce here and turn it into support. I think it's doing that pretty cleanly. We did drop 56% on this one. I'm going to say she's turned and that we're going higher. Just to get to where we were before for the high, it's another 58%. I like that. But yeah, no, it's looking pretty good today, guys. It's looking like a nice bounce on iron. And let's see what else we have. Let's look at MicroStrategy. Let's look at more MicroStrategy. And it looks like Tesla's starting to bounce too. It looks like people are, we started out low and we're going higher. This is just, strategy looks like such a nice consolidation here, guys. It looks like what it wants to do is to break back up and get above 165. It really looks like it wants to do that. This is a bullish flag here. Like, this is what you want to see. So MicroStrategy, I think, is very, very near its bottom. How far did it drop? What is it at even? It dropped over 70%. So I think this is a good bottom. 71% is a big drop, and I think it's a great place to buy. I actually, though, I'm more excited about Strive, ASST, and so that's going to be my focus there. If you guys have a chart you want to pull up, let me know what it is. Again, I think Enphase still is an exciting one. Let me see how that's doing. It's up just a hair today, 0.26. I still think this one is just in breakout territory. It's starting to creep out right now. If you look here, you can see how it's starting to break up. And I think that that's just going to continue to happen. Technically, I don't know. That's probably, well, I mean, it's freaking close. Let's see. It could technically not be broken out yet. That's probably closer to what's accurate. I'd say it's technically not broken out yet, but it's getting ready to. Stupid quick. And so I think that one's going to do well. It's just up just a little bit today, but I like the look of that. And then EOS Energy is just great. Let me look at that one and see how it's doing. I should look at some of these others too. And yeah, if you guys have one, Wolf. Oh yeah, we should do that. So if we look here, EOS Energy, again, I kind of said before, hey, this is a bull flag. You could look at it a couple of different ways, but either way, it was bullish. And it was either like a pennant or a bull flag or a tightening wedge. It's all the same shit. If we can get above 1660, that's going to be nice. Might hit some resistance here. And then again, it's just up to all-time highs again over here. And then once you get up to here, once you get up to there, then it turns into a rising broadening wedge. Or falling broadening wedge. And you can see how once you get up to here, it's like, oh, hey, this looks beautiful. We're probably going to have a measured move that's a lot higher. This looks tight. It looks really, really good. All right, let's look at some more here. What do you guys got? Wolf, you wanted to look at Wolf. Let's open that up. I don't know if I have all these tickers, but I'll try and pull them up. Doing a little more here today. It's been a long one. Wolf, oh, that still looks pretty good. I'd say if anything, it looks like we're consolidating above most previous resistance, right? We're kind of in open air territory. Once we get above 1530 and hold that, it's kind of to the moon. But how much have you made on this? If you made a ton of money, $2 to 1360 is a pretty good run. This thing's at 5.59. I don't know, though. It just all depends. I haven't paid as close attention to Wolf in regard to just how much access to energy and what their opportunity is here. But I think a lot of the Bitcoin miners can do well. 5.6 billion is a pretty good number. That's almost double what CleanSpark is. So maybe I'd like CleanSpark more at this level. Again, they're 100% renewable energy, which I think is a big win for Iron. That's why they have an Anthropic deal with them, if I remember correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong, chat. But yeah, so this it looks like technically it can go higher. It could go back up to like, I don't know. It could go higher, but I don't know if I'd be too. I need to reset this, honestly. I need to probably do like a smaller scale look You could do this over a longer time frame too, but I'm just going to do a smaller scale look. We'll call this the bottom for now. Maybe you can get up to 37 or something if things really go well. Again, it kind of gets you to this previous high over here. There's just so much stock dilution. I don't know enough about these companies. I feel way more confident in Mike Alfred's choices between Iron. Iron's up almost 7%. That's great. And Cypher. I like those better. I like the OC chart, man. I just looked at it. I think that we hit resistance around 1660, and then the next run is just up to 19s. But I think it can go higher, and it's been doing really well. I've been impressed with it. I'm glad I bought. I'm glad we bought like over here, right? The Anthropic deal with Iron has not been confirmed by any. Oh, okay. Thank you for that, TT. But I could see why people are speculating on it because they have 100% renewable, right? Exercised my $12 Cypher 116 calls on Friday. Yeah, if you did really well on that, that's smart. I don't like leverage right now with options, and I certainly wouldn't want to see something that's really, really close to expiration. So it's awesome that you made that money, though. $12 is certainly different than the 17 it's sitting at now. You were up 1,400%. That's awesome, dude. Good job. Yeah, if I would have switched to that AI, if I would have switched to the AI play from Bitcoin mining last year, that literally would have been the difference in my portfolio between being red for the year, significantly red, and being green. I would have made so much. If I would have been an Iron or some of these others, like Cypher, Iron, or any of those AI play ones, fuck. I was an Iron, but I just didn't have enough allocated, and then I got out of it too quickly. But you make mistakes. That's how you got to learn, right? Awesome, dude. Well, at least you did better than I did, SB. That's fucking awesome, dude. Good for you, man. All right, let's look at some other charts here. What else we got? The only options I have are January 2027, ASST. Oh, those are probably still going to be pretty good. The good thing about that is I want to say in like October, that $1.35 cap is going to be gone from warrants. And who knows, if demand is really high in Bitcoin, it might just disappear before that because it really needs to be above $1.35, I believe, to make it economically viable to execute on those warrants. But I think there's a pretty good chance you'll be above that. I just don't know over the next like 6 to 9 months. It might be slow, like the first half. And so this might bleed down a little bit. And then all of a sudden you rock it up at the end of the year. Who knows? It all depends on what Bitcoin does. We do have guys, I should mention this. We do have Grok saying that Bitcoin should be going to 169 soon, and giving reasons for why. Also, Tom Lee saying that BitMine is quietly turning into an ETH central bank. 3 billion of Ethereum now staked or held. 4 million plus ETH on balance sheet. Staking turns into ETH and turns into reoccurring cash flow. Cash flow equals dividends, which means a valuation re-rating. Mavan validator indicator launching Q1 of 2026. BitMine is building an Ethereum treasury plus yield engine designed for long. This could be a really great narrative. It's not helping today. It's only up 0.3%. But it could be a really good narrative. ASST guys looking good today. Let's just look at this. So we're popping a little bit. We're hitting key volumes. We're looking to turn this into support. I do think we'll get there. This thing is still down 92% from its recent 52-week high, which is crazy. But again, they had a lot of dilution. We were smart, though. We were able to benefit from getting in, jump out by getting out over here. So we were getting in over here, right, in the threes. We got out in the 11 to 12 range. I told everybody I sold everything I had, and now we're back down in these ranges. Yeah, right around here. That's probably my average, right around here. So we're getting close to where I'm in profit with some of these, and when it goes higher, we got a gap all the way up 722%. This is a much smaller cap, which I like. It's less than $1 billion right now. So if you like that Bitcoin treasury play with perps, then I don't know. ASST seems like a lot of fun to me. I like that one, and it's doing good today. SoFi's down 2%. The banking stuff isn't doing good. Red Cat is up 4.44. That's another one of mine, guys. Zeta's is down 0.74, not really doing much. Metaplanet up still 2.5-ish. CleanSpark up 1.42. Cypher up 1.26. Iron absolutely crushing it. Wolf up 2.67. It looks like a good day, man. My stuff is doing well. Could I share my thoughts on Metaplanet? I think they're still a great company. I think they have revenue that they can use to buy Bitcoin. I think they've got preferred offerings that they can use to buy Bitcoin, and I think they got stock issuance when the premium on NAV is good that they can do to buy Bitcoin, and I think Bitcoin has bottomed. So I'm pretty bullish on stuff like that. No, I haven't sold. I think I still have a lot of Smarter Web. I sold like 50% of it or something before it just really started to plummet because I didn't like the UK, and so I got out of it because the UK it was just pissing me off, right? Like the UK can't do anything right. Keir Starmer's a fucking cunt. And so I got out of it, and it just kept doing fucking worse. Worse and worse and worse and worse. And eventually now we had our breakout, right? So you can see it over here. You can see how what was the resistance line, we broke out above, and we're rolling pretty good. Now that they're on the London Stock Exchange, though, that other 50%, so I sold them, I want to say it's like over here or something. It was probably even higher, that 50%. And then I didn't buy, but now I think we're starting to get to a point where some of those others actually could end up coming back, and it could end up doing all right, and then I could at least get my money back. Hopefully I can make some out of it. We'll just see how well they flip. Again, I just think, though, it's so much sketchier to be investing in something like this in the UK where you have no idea if they're going to fuck you. But I love the fact that the remaining money that I have in here is up 17% today. And if you didn't have any exposure, now is probably a better time. King Size Smile, I'm so late to that call today, but want to say thank you for the show. Last week, I diversified my portfolio into 30 different positions versus being in only 8, always crypto and TSLL. I hope it works out for you, man. I think, I think this next year is going to be really good in markets, and I think diversification can be good. 30 is a lot. That sounds like a lot, but I wish you luck. I find 10 to 15 to be plenty for me. My pie can't get much bigger than that. All right. So I think Metaplanet could do really well. It's nice though to see things kind of popping today, guys. I gotta say. Let me hop over here real quick. I want to see how the rest of these are doing. So gold is actually in a mild breakout here, up 2%. But again, it's such a huge market cap, guys. When you get over 32 trillion, I mean, how much bigger do you think you're gonna get? It ain't gonna be that big. It looks like, again, we're kind of getting into positive territory. My stuff is flying today, which is wild in comparison to this. So Kraken Robotics up 3.75%. The 10-year bond is starting to roll over. So again, I think this is still going to roll. I'm not worried about that. IRID's up 6.3%. I'm doing really well today. EOS Energy's up 7.66. This is fucking crazy. It's nice to own the stuff that's actually going up when the market's pretty flat. The S&P is down 0.15%, the Nasdaq's down 0.29, and the Russell is down 0.31, and I'm just making money hand over fist today. That's a nice fucking change of pace. ARCG is up 3.6. Again, I love this chart, guys. I love this chart. We're above peak volumes. Look at this. We're above peak volumes. If we look at the shorter time frame, like right around, I don't know, somewhere in here. But you could see how we're right there. Like we're grinding above this and we're turning it into support. I love it. I love it. I think we're going to start to see this scream. That would make because I have a lot of leverage in this and it's currently my largest position, this would just make it, this would give me a lot of money for buying anything else. And everything's going up. So I don't know. I'm pretty stoked right now. Zeta down 0.37. Even Tesla's up 0.79 now, guys. What a day. What a day. And TLT's down a little bit. I hope TLT stays down. I would love to see ARCG come off, just break out. It's up over 4% right now. Just a nice day. Beautiful looking chart. Again, we broke down underneath. We spiked really quickly. At every point where we've hit a contentious zone, like peak volumes here, we've spiked again violently. Back tested the support line that's been around for years, spiked above it violently, back tested the 200 moving average, spiking up violently. I fucking love it. NBIS, yeah, we can look at that. Sorry, I probably missed a few tickers here too, guys. I'm sorry. NBIS. Nebius. What are your thoughts on risk of government shutdown? I think there potentially is going to be a government shutdown. I'm not as worried about it. You don't have as many risks to the economy this time around. The food stamp thing isn't going to be a part of it. They're funded through the end of the year. I just think it's not going to be as big of a deal. I think the wall of worry is going to get climbed. Nebius up 3.78. I mean, it looked like we did a pretty good consolidation here. We dropped from 142. We dropped 51%. Or no, not 51%. I don't know why I did that. We dropped 47% on this one, and it's bouncing hard off the 200 moving average on the monthly time frame. It looks good, dude. It looks good to me. Let me hop over here. So I just want to cover. Oh, my wife must be cooking. We might have to go soon, guys. I'm getting hungry. I do have some other slides I want to go through, though. Best performing assets of the decade are digital intelligence, NVIDIA, and digital credit, MicroStrategy, and digital capital, BTC. So NVIDIA, MicroStrategy, BTC. You can shit on MicroStrategy, but I think it's still going to be a good investment. It's just not going to be as good as the others. Tevis was covering BM&R. I'm probably going to skip that, but you can check out that post. Adam Livingston talking about what it looks like for how much money you can make if you max out a Roth IRA, $7,000 a year, $19 a day, and you instead of putting that in the S&P, you put it into Bitcoin with a higher CAGR. So over 20 years, you look here, that dotted line at the bottom. Oh, here, let me move it up. That dotted line at the bottom is the S&P over 20 years. If you get a 10% CAGR. The next line over here is a 20% CAGR. Let's say with Bitcoin. Then there's a 25. I think Bitcoin does a 30. You can see what a 35 would look like. But I think Bitcoin's probably around a 30. 30 to 25 is probably what we're looking at. So between here and here, these are huge number differences. I mean, look at this. Instead of $447,000 available in your retirement 20 years later, you're talking about $4 million, $9 million. So again, it's just a no-brainer to be involved. And here's the deal. And my friend Adam said this to me too. He said, "You're going to beat this rate because I invest in this stuff." And I do agree. I will beat it. So that's exciting. Tom Lee. Oh, we got to hear this real quick.
In crypto, the best years are definitely ahead because today there's only 4 million Bitcoin wallets with $10,000 in it.
I don't know.
There's 900 million.
Real quick, I don't know my cost basis for Smarter Web. I could try and look it up in a couple of my accounts. Problem is, it's spread out over like 4 accounts. It's much higher. It's much higher. I'm in no way in the money on those. And I didn't dial. I'm so far out of the money because I didn't dial into it more because I didn't want to apply more risk into the UK. So I stayed away from it. But again, if nobody had any exposure right now, it's up 11% today. It's much cheaper here than what I bought it at.
Million IRA and brokerage accounts globally that have $10,000. So that's probably 200 times larger.
So BGZ said my Bitcoin only portfolio is much better than my trading portfolio. So if you were like me and you were heavy into crypto with leverage heading into the end of the year, then you probably got your ass handed to you, especially if that leverage expired by the beginning of this year or this month. So I get it. A lot of people that were looking at options contracts for like October, December, even into January got fucked. I did too. But here's the thing. That's short term, right? And if the cycle isn't over, CleanSpark's up almost 3%. Cypher's up 3.3. I'm sure Iron's up a shit ton still. Yeah, minor options. Yeah, that's same thing that fucked me. I really wish in October when I was at like 5.9 million and I had like 2 million or something in options contracts with CleanSpark and Mara that I would have just unloaded it. But shoulda, coulda, woulda. I think I will never be stupid and assume that something absolutely has to happen in a certain amount of time. Somebody said this, if I would have just followed my rules for 2-year leaps, I would have known that I had to exit because I don't like to be in things that are expiring in a couple of months. And I should have done that. But, again, you can get emotion can take over. I think for me, it was the things didn't go great, and then earlier in the year with the tariff, war, and just that was fucking crazy in the beginning. The numbers that the day that was released, that was a huge deal. And then I tried to play catch up, and I just wasn't looking at the right things. I crushed macro last year, but I wasn't paying attention to my investments and really thinking fundamentally about them. I wish I would have saw the AI play. Oh yeah, FOMO too, all the stupid shit. But all we can do is lick our chops, think about what we did wrong, and make sure that we don't do it again. And that's why I've removed leverage. That's why I'm invested in things that are still doing well. I didn't give up on them just because price go down and you get scared and run away. I just figured out how to make it to where I can still have a nice asymmetric upside. Maybe that isn't as much as what it would be, and then at the same time I can last. Jesse, is now a good time to go back to your comment on Michael Howell's positioning. I don't know what you mean. I don't agree with Michael Howell right now. I don't agree with global liquidity. I don't think that China is at the beginning of anything good. There's nothing good coming out of China. So I disagree with Michael Howell a little bit right now. But if you have a specific question, ask it. What's your top 3 energy plays? I don't know if mine are right. But I think Enphase is a sleeper, and I've told people why. I think First Solar is a much bigger cap, but I think it's going to do really well too because it builds its own panels, and they're becoming more competitive. And I think as the housing market opens up and as rates go down, my play, again, no end date on it. It could be a year from now. But I think my play is that companies like Enphase and companies like First Solar do really well. I'm also, though, interested in Next and VG. These are 2 companies that I've started to nibble on. You guys probably saw that last week. They do LNG, and I think LNG is going to be really popular too. And so I want to get in on some of these gas plays. I think energy is set to take off, and so betting on some of these. And next, I want to say, if I remember correctly, Matt was talking about this, but next, when I was down in South Padre Island, there was this huge LNG facility getting built out, and I took a picture of it and posted it. And he's like, "That's Next Energy. That's like they're going to be feeding some of the fuels for SpaceX, and that's why they're there, and then other stuff too. But like some of the rocket fuel, I think they help build too." And so there's just some plays like that where it's like, okay, they're not making money yet. They've got a bunch of investment dollars. But I think their play on energy is going to be so huge. There's going to be such a massive demand for it that they can get into profitability really quick and get repriced. Bill, what's your take on BABA? It's up today. I don't like China. BABA looked from a technical standpoint, it looks like the stock could break out. But if anybody who knows me, dude, knows that I don't like China. LNG is called the Widowmaker. Is energy trading? Yeah, that's true. Probably has been, right? It's definitely down, which I think is great. Oh, but again, that's just a small amount. Like when I talk about the LNG play, that's like 20 grand or something, man. It's not even like 1% of a portfolio. So like, just keep that in mind. I believe much greater. Yep. They have a lawsuit pending too for VG. Very true. I've just got friends, some of the same friends that, have given me really good opportunities. We're talking highly about VG and Next. And so I'm dabbling my feet in the waters. I don't like China. I like the Chinese people. I think from an investment standpoint, you'd have to be an idiot to put your money into the country right now. There's a reason why foreign direct investment is so horrific. Their country is falling apart. Their population is probably a fraction of what they say it is. Their energy production is again, I think, overstated because I just don't know what you connect it to. And they've been losing tons of businesses. There are manufacturing facilities closing down like fucking crazy because they got utterly destroyed when Trump threatened tariffs over and over again. And it was just ending orders for like months at a time before some started to trickle in. And there's a reason the trade deficit is dropping so substantially. It's because we're fucking China. China's got to export to the rest of the world, and their margins are way lower. So I just don't like China right now, man, at all. The STH supply and profit loss ratio is back at break-even level. Markets are a process. Just talking about how, again, so many indicators indicating that Bitcoin is bottomed and it's ready to go higher. We got Grok based on historical crypto cycles, current market data. We're likely in early recovery. Reaching euphoria could take 4 to 8 months if bullish momentum builds. Per analysts like Tom Lee predicting new highs soon. But markets are volatile. Could be sooner or longer. But this person asked Grok to draw this, right? They said, hey, Grok, looking at this image, edit the image to show where you think Bitcoin is right now in its cycle. Bitcoin said here, disbelief, which indicates that we're not even near euphoria right now. Any thoughts on when clarity? I think it could be Friday, at least, its first pass, and then it's got to go on to get passed in the Senate. Bullish divergences, yada, yada. Michael Saylor buying a bunch of shit. Pretty cool. Anyway. I think that's probably about enough of that. Let me see if there's anything geopolitically. This is Alberta. Yeah, Friday they vote on it. Yep. The Senate, or is that the Senate Banking Committee? I want to say it goes through them. Then it'll go to the House, I want to say, and then to the Senate for approval. So it's a process, but if it passes the Senate Banking Committee, I mean, it's on. But yeah, right here, guys, 177. They're like, hey, Alberta independence petition needs 177,000 signatures. I think we're going to get it. There was a huge, huge line of people that wanted to sign up for this and defy their Canadian government and start to separate from them. It's a long process, but I think it's happening. John Fetterman, I got to say, I actually agree with him. He said, I fully supported our strike on Iranian nuclear facilities last year. Build on this momentum if further kinetic actions are necessary. These brave protesters deserve our full support to break down the brutal regime. I love him and his honesty. I love this too. This Iranian girl, she's basically saying down with Khomeini. And listen, when she's walking through the city, listen to the kids that get excited and cheer it too. It's so beautiful to see this. I love it. You can hear kids and you can hear adults and just people, that are excited because they think they're going to have freedom for the first time in 47 years. Wouldn't it be interesting if our president ends up releasing them after 47 years? That's an interesting timeline. And we did. Iranian leaders called him yesterday. They said they want to negotiate. I don't know if we're going to negotiate. We are going to meet with them. We'll let Trump say it.
Is there any willingness from Iran to engage diplomatically with you, or perhaps negotiate on nuclear program?
With Iran?
Yeah. Do you think they want to engage diplomatically with you?
They do. They called.
They called you. Is it still
yesterday.
An option? Is it still an option?
Iran called to negotiate. Yesterday, the leaders of Iran called. They want to negotiate. I think they're tired of being beat up by the United States.
Are you sharing any details on that call?
Iran wants to negotiate. Yes.
Negotiate what?
We may meet with them. I mean, a meeting is being set up, but we may have to act because of what's happening before the meeting. Right. But a meeting is being set up. Iran called. They want to negotiate.
And that meeting is supposed to be this week, and so we'll see what happens with it. But we might end up having to do things beforehand because they're killing a bunch of people. Right now, it's 2,000 to 3,000 people that have been killed in the protests, which is a huge number. It's actually double what the last major massacre is that they had, where women were stepping out and taking off their hijabs and then getting brutalized by the dictatorship. Keir Starmer is pro-incest and is his group is blocking a ban on first cousin marriage because we want Pakistanis to feel like it's okay to marry their cousins. That's cool. I put amazing job, Trump. So again, the Nicaraguan dictatorship, nobody's talking about this, the release of its political prisoners. So they don't want to get fucked by Trump. They're scared. And so they're releasing political prisoners voluntarily just to make Trump happy. Great show today. We got to have some more likes. Yeah, if you guys could hit the likes, that'd be greatly appreciated, even though most people have left by now. Sightbringer said, this leak is not a bluff. It's a final check before ignition. Here's the structural read. So he's just talking about how there was a leak of a discussion where Trump was threatening Iran. I think this is just like, he goes through the details of it. He said the leak is not informational, it's preparatory. When a Trump administration leaks, it's discussions. It means one of three things. Operations have already been simulated. Key allies have already been notified, or it means these three things. The public is being softened for normalization of impact. I totally agree. There's no upside to floating an idea like this unless it's actively being considered at tier 1 readiness. I agree. You don't trial balloon a strike on Iran unless your escalation ladder is already mapped out and your intelligence windows open. Totally agree. 2, aerial strike planning means they are not trying to occupy. They're trying to blind and paralyze. And they can drop weapons too. You can drop weapons. You can drop satellites. You can drop systems to be able to defend themselves. And again, you can also drop explosives on the bad guys so that the rebels, let's just say it, the people that are beating up the cops and taking their guns right now, or, stealing all the weapons from the local police station, they can be better equipped to be able to defend themselves. And I think that's the level we're working at. And then it's just a matter of timing. I don't know when Trump's going to strike. He's also talking with Cuba and threatening them. It's awesome. I think that's it for today, guys. I think I'm probably going to call it here. I'm going to do another quick sweep here and just see how things are doing. So silver is up a lot, 6.79, still climbing higher. That means it's probably close to 400%. Yeah, 383% from its low in 2022. So if you were in silver, you crushed it. Congrats. Gold is still trying to break up above 2. It's up 2.38% on the day. These are huge numbers. I don't know. Hopefully breakfast. I'm assuming sausage or something. It smells like sausage, maybe eggs. I don't know what else. But yeah, gold is up a lot. This is a multi-trillion. This is a $32 trillion asset that went up 2.35%. I'd say it's a bad sign for China and Russia with that happening. Let's look over here. The day hasn't turned green yet across all these different indices. They're not doing well. Kraken Robotics up 7.44. Love that we're beating the markets. Iron up 3%. Still loving that. EOS Energy up 4. Loving that. TerraWolf's up 1.45. Smarter Web's up 13.5. Yeah, this is just cool. It's looking cool, guys. Cypher's up 0.72, CleanSpark. So some of these have come down a little bit. Tesla's up 0.7. Metal Planet's up 3.5. But I got to say, today's a good day for me. I don't know about you guys, but today's a good day for me. What's RG doing again? I'm going to go back over to that one real fast. I see Tim doing really well. And when Tim does well, ARCG follows. Because Tim is actually the largest position they have. And it creates a lot of liquidity. It's only 2% right now on ArcG, so it's come back a little bit. It did have a daily gap, though, so it probably needs to do that. But still, everything I own is basically up today. I mean, Zeta is down 1.31%. Red Cat's down 0.6%. But just like little tiny downs, but a lot of things that are up by a lot. Strive is still up by 5.5%. I don't know, guys. I think today's going to be a good day. Anyway, I love you. I will talk to you in a week. I hope you guys stay in the game, and I hope you're doing better. I think 2026 is going to be a good year. Peace out, guys. Love you. Bye.